I hired a cleaning service while my wife was away at work. The cleaner called me, whispering, "You ever have one of those days where you wake up thinking you're going to be a responsible adult, only for life to turn around and hand you a participation trophy that says nice try?" That was me. Saturday morning, armed with coffee, optimism, and the kind of naive confidence only a man with no foresight could have. My wife, Harper, had been pulling late nights at the law firm, and not the romantic kind where she texts, "I miss you." No, hers were the "I fell asleep face first into legal briefs" kind. So I figured, hey, maybe I could do something sweet, something meaningful, something that would make her look at me the way she used to before we started arguing about who left the milk out. My idea? Clean the damn house. But not just clean, deep clean. The kind of cleaning that makes the place smell like citrus and accomplishment. You know, real husband of the year energy. Now, before you think I was about to grab a mop and start humming Disney tunes, let's set the record straight. I wasn't cleaning it myself. I'm not insane. I know my limits. The last time I tried helping, I bleached our bath towels into tie-dye disasters and nearly vacuumed the cat's tail. So this time, I made the responsible decision. I outsourced my heroism. Enter Bright Spark Cleaning Services, the company whose Yelp reviews read like love letters from people who've never met joy before. They changed my life. My baseboards sparkle. I cried tears of gratitude. I was sold. When I booked them, the receptionist chirped, "We'll send Lily Tran, one of our best." And let me tell you, the name Lily sounded exactly like the kind of person who alphabetizes her spice rack for fun. So when she showed up at my door at 10 a.m. sharp, wearing a crisp polo and holding a cleaning tote like it was an extension of her soul, I knew I'd picked right. She had that quiet, efficient vibe. The sort of woman who probably thanks her Roomba after every job well done. "Good morning, Mr. Grant," she said softly, voice like she was afraid to wake the walls. I grinned, trying to sound like a normal employer and not someone who'd just realized his socks didn't match. "Hey, Lily. Thanks for coming. House is, lived in." Understatement of the year. Our living room looked like an episode of Hoarders, the married edition. Harper's work clothes draped over chairs like ghosts of overtime past, takeout boxes staging a rebellion on the coffee table, and a faint smell of "did someone burn popcorn 2 days ago?" lingering in the air. Lily didn't flinch. She just nodded, scanning the chaos like a general preparing for war. I gave her the tour, doing my best to sound authoritative. "So, this is the kitchen. Don't mind the fridge, it hums louder than my in-laws. That's the cat, Miso, aka the rightful owner of the couch. And, please don't touch any of Harper's projects." I air quoted because there's no universe where a pile of laundry counts as art. She gets territorial. Lily smiled politely, jotting something on her little clipboard like a student taking notes at a crime scene. "Understood." "Great. Oh, and don't use the coffee machine," I added quickly. "It's complicated. Last person who tried ended up summoning smoke instead of espresso." She nodded again, calm, efficient, terrifyingly competent. Honestly, she made me feel like I should start paying her emotional support tax. After about 10 minutes of awkward small talk, I grabbed my keys and decided to treat myself to lunch. I figured I'd give her space to perform her cleaning sorcery while I pretended to be a productive member of society. As I stepped out, I couldn't help feeling proud. I had pulled off something thoughtful. Harper would come home to a sparkling house. I'd finally win a husband point or two, and maybe, just maybe, we'd spend one evening without arguing about whose turn it was to take out the trash. I was practically glowing with self-satisfaction as I slid into my car, humming along to some old blues song on the radio. If life had background music, mine would have been a triumphant montage right there. I stopped at this small diner down the street, Joe's Grill, the kind of place that still serves milkshakes in metal cups and calls you buddy, even when they forget your order. I was halfway through my burger when I thought about how nice it'd be to surprise Harper later. Maybe light a candle, pour her some wine, say, "See? I can adult too." If this were a movie, that's the part where the ominous soundtrack would start. You know, the low cello hum that makes you squint at the screen and yell, "Don't open the door." But in real life, we don't get soundtracks. We get silence right before everything goes sideways. As I finished my fries, I got a text from Lily. "Sir, quick question. Do you want me to clean the attic?" "The attic?" I frowned. We didn't have an attic worth mentioning. Just a small crawl space accessible by a hatch in the hallway ceiling. Storage for old Christmas lights, broken toasters, and regrets. Nah, I texted back. Don't worry about it. Haven't been up there in years. She replied with a simple, okay. I didn't think much of it. I paid my bill, grabbed a to-go coffee, and decided to stop by the hardware store. Maybe pick up some air fresheners, a few light bulbs, and, I don't know, something manly to offset the fact that I just hired someone else to clean my house. On the drive back, rain started spitting against my windshield. The kind of drizzle that makes the world look like it's been wiped with a greasy napkin. I turned up the radio, trying to ignore the creeping sense that something about today felt too quiet. But I shrugged it off. After all, how much trouble could happen in 1 hour of cleaning? Turns out, plenty. When I got home, I parked at the curb and admired my house like it was a freshly waxed car. Except, something was off. The front door was slightly ajar. Not wide open, just cracked. I frowned. Lily was supposed to be inside. Maybe she'd stepped out to take a call. Or maybe she'd finished early. I pushed the door open, calling out, Lily? You good? Silence. That's when my phone buzzed again, a voicemail notification. From Lily. My stomach tightened. I pressed play. Mr. Grant, it's me. Something weird's happening. The door upstairs just opened on its own, and I thought maybe it was the draft, but then I heard footsteps. Heavy ones. And no, I know someone's up there. I'm leaving the house now. Please call me. Click. End of message. My pulse jumped like I'd just downed 3 energy drinks. I looked around the quiet living room, spotless, polished, freshly vacuumed, and felt a chill crawl up my neck. The air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and something else. Stale, like a room that hadn't been aired out in years. I took one cautious step inside. Hello. Nothing. The rational part of my brain said, relax. Maybe she heard the house settle. The irrational part said, yeah, and maybe the attic hatch just learned to moonwalk. I scanned the floor. Everything looked normal. No signs of a break-in. But then I noticed it. Faint footprints on the tile, leading from the hallway to the stairs. Not Lily's dainty shoe prints, but large, heavy ones. Like boots. Wet boots. I froze. The hairs on my arms stood up. I should have called the cops right then, but my dumb male pride whispered, you can handle this. So I grabbed the nearest thing that could pass for a weapon, a broom. Because nothing says bravery like threatening an intruder with Swiffer power. I crept up the stairs, broom raised like Excalibur, listening hard. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever, or whatever, was up there could hear it too. Every creak made me jump. The hallway was dim, the only light coming from the window at the far end. Harper's art project pile sat untouched, her perfume still lingering in the air. When I reached the bedroom door, I hesitated. That's when I heard it, a faint sound. A shuffle, like fabric brushing against wood, coming from above. The attic. Nope, absolutely not. I backed away, broom still clutched tight, and bolted down the stairs faster than my dignity could follow. My brain finally caught up and screamed, call the damn cops. I dialed 911, pacing the living room like a caffeinated squirrel. When the dispatcher answered, my voice cracked. Hi. Yeah, so I think there's someone in my attic. Or maybe there isn't. But my cleaner saw a guy, and I just found footprints, and I'd really prefer not to die today. 15 minutes later, 2 police cruisers pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across my freshly mopped floors. Officer Jenkins, tall, mid-40s, looked like he hated paperwork more than crime, led the search. Lily showed up too, pale and clutching her cleaning bag like it held the meaning of life. The officers combed through every inch of the house, even the attic. Nothing. No one. Not even a raccoon. When Jenkins came down, he shrugged. No signs of forced entry. No prints except yours and your cleaner's. Probably just a misunderstanding. I forced a laugh. Yeah, sure. A misunderstanding that walks around in size 12s. He didn't laugh. Lily didn't either. She was still shaking, eyes darting around like the walls might move. He looked right at me, she whispered. He was standing in the hallway. I thought maybe he was your friend, but when he smiled, she trailed off. What kind of smile? I asked, voice low. The kind that doesn't reach the eyes. I try to play it off with humor because that's my go-to defense mechanism. Maybe it was my reflection, I joked weakly. I've been told I'm terrifying before coffee. No one laughed. Not even the cat. That's when it hit me. My brilliant plan had gone from domestic romance to psychological thriller in under 2 hours. And the worst part? The night hadn't even started yet. I was in the grocery aisle, doing what every man does when left unsupervised in public, making bad decisions. There I stood, holding 2 ramen packets like I was negotiating international peace. Extra spicy or life-ending spicy? My brain treated this like a NASA mission. I even checked the ingredients, like chili powder percentage would suddenly reveal my destiny. Somewhere, Harper was probably billing $600 an hour for her time while I was mentally arguing with sodium content. Then my phone buzzed. The screen said Lily. I smiled, assuming she was calling to tell me I'd just won Best Husband Alive. Maybe she wanted to confirm where the mop lived? Trick question. I had no idea. I answered, cheerful. Hey Lily, what's up? House looking less like a crime scene yet. Her voice came out in a whisper, so low I thought she pocket-dialed me from a library. Sir, is anyone supposed to be in the house? Instant vibe switch. My grin faded. Unless Miso evolved opposable thumbs, no. What? Her voice shook. I just saw a man upstairs. I stopped breathing. You know that cold rush that hits your chest when the universe slaps you? Yeah, that. I glanced down at the ramen in my hand and suddenly felt ridiculous. Okay. Lily, listen to me. Get out of the house. Right now? Don't pack. Don't look, just go. I didn't even wait for her reply before sprinting toward the checkout like a man running from student loans. My brain was juggling panic and disbelief like bad circus performers. Did we miss someone in the attic? Was it a burglar? Was I about to end up as a segment on Dateline titled, "He Just Wanted a Clean House"? I dialed 911 while speed walking across the parking lot. Yeah, hi. I think there's an intruder in my house. My cleaner's inside. Please hurry. The operator told me to stay on the line, but I was already starting my car like a NASCAR driver in therapy. The drive home was a blur, red lights, honking horns, and one guy flipping me off for cutting him off. Normally, I'd yell something back like, call my lawyer. But right now, I was too busy imagining my house as a horror set. Every scenario ran through my head. None of them ended well. When I turned onto my street, I saw 2 police cruisers already parked out front, red and blue lights flashing against my windows. My stomach dropped. The scene looked like a low-budget crime drama starring, unfortunately, me. Lily was standing outside, hugging her cleaning tote like it contained the last shred of her sanity. Her face was pale, eyes darting toward the house as if expecting it to blink. I parked, barely remembering to turn off the engine before jumping out. Lily, are you okay? She nodded shakily. I got out right after calling. I swear I saw someone. Officer Jenkins, same guy from earlier, built like a linebacker with the personality of a tax audit, approached me. Mr. Grant, we've checked the premises. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints except yours and hers. I stared at him. You sure? Because unless I sleepwalk with size 12 boots, someone's in there. He gave me that cop look, the one that says we've heard this before. We'll do another sweep, but it looks secure. I glanced back at Lily. She was still trembling. I lowered my voice. What did you see exactly? Her eyes filled with tears. He was standing at the top of the stairs. Tall, maybe 6 feet. Messy hair. He looked wrong. Wrong how? Like he wasn't surprised to see me. Like he expected me. That line hit harder than caffeine on an empty stomach. I rubbed the back of my neck, trying to sound rational. Maybe it was your reflection in a mirror? Her head jerked. No. He smiled. Okay, that shut me up. I looked at the house. The door still slightly open, my reflection barely visible in the glass. The place looked harmless, but so do clowns from a distance. The officers went back inside while Lily sat in the patrol car, sipping water like it was holy. I followed Jenkins up the porch, broom still in my car, because, yeah, that was definitely going to save me. Inside, everything looked normal, too normal. The air was thick, silent except for the ticking clock. My heart synced to it like a bad drumline. We searched each room again. Bedrooms? Empty. Bathrooms? Empty. Attic? Double-checked. Nothing but insulation and broken Christmas lights. I was starting to feel stupid. Maybe Lily had imagined it. Or maybe I had conjured this paranoia since the jewelry box incident. Then Jenkins called from the kitchen. Sir, did you leave this back door unlocked? No, I never used that door. He frowned. It was unlatched. That detail lodged itself in my brain like a splinter. Maybe someone had slipped in, seen Lily, and bailed out before cops arrived. Or worse, maybe he was still around, watching. Jenkins shrugged. Probably nothing. You'd be surprised how often wind blows a latch open. Yeah, sure. And maybe wind leaves boot prints too. After 20 more minutes of police reassurance and zero actual answers, they left. Lily looked like she'd aged 10 years. I thanked her profusely, apologized, even offered to pay double. She declined the bonus but said softly, "Please be careful, Mr. Grant." He looked angry. Then she got in her little silver sedan and drove off like she couldn't get away fast enough. When the cruisers pulled away, I was left standing in my driveway under a sky that suddenly felt too big. My perfect suburban neighborhood, trimmed lawns, friendly mailboxes, now looked like camouflage for nightmares. Every shadow felt alive. I locked the door, every bolt and latch clicking like punctuation marks in a bad decision. The silence afterward was deafening. I could hear the fridge humming, the house settling, my heart trying to escape my chest. I checked the attic hatch one more time, closed tight. Still, something about the air felt off. Like the house was breathing, waiting. I tried to distract myself, turned on the TV, poured a drink, scrolled through my phone pretending I wasn't replaying Lily's words. He looked like he knew I'd be there. What did that even mean? By 9 p.m., Harper called. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice chipper from the office. "How's my domestic superhero?" "Oh, surviving. House clean. Spotless. You could perform surgery on the kitchen counter." "Wow, maybe I should work late more often." "Please don't," I muttered, earning a laugh I didn't deserve. I debated telling her what happened, but stopped. Harper's the type who'd either call the FBI or call me dramatic. There's no in between. Besides, the cops said there was nothing. What good would freaking her out do? After we hung up, I poured another drink. Whiskey this time. I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Every creak, every gust outside made me flinch. My phone sat on the coffee table, dark and still, but I kept glancing at it like it might suddenly scream, "Run." Then came a faint noise from upstairs, a single, soft thud. I froze mid-sip. Miso was asleep beside me, purring like an engine. So unless the cat learned parkour, something else made that sound. I stood slowly, setting down my glass. My voice came out weaker than I intended. "Hello." Silence. I exhaled shakily, grabbing my phone's flashlight and tiptoeing to the base of the stairs. I pointed the beam upward, every instinct yelling bad idea. The light caught nothing but shadows and Harper's framed law degree. Ironic, considering I was about to sue my own nerves. Another noise, faint scraping this time, like wood dragging on wood. My heart thumped so hard it felt like applause for bad decisions. I climbed the first step, phone shaking in my hand. The second step creaked loud enough to announce me to the universe. "Miso, if that's you," I whispered. "I'm putting you up for adoption." Still nothing. I reached the top and scanned the hallway. Everything was still. Laundry mountain, present. Bedroom door, open. Closet, closed. The attic hatch, shut. But the air smelled different, cold, dusty, wrong. Then my phone vibrated, another call. Unknown number. I nearly dropped it. "Hello." Static. Then a voice. "You shouldn't have come back." Click. Deadline. I stood frozen, pulse hammering in my throat. Okay, nope. 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 I bolted downstairs like gravity owed me money. I checked every lock again, double-latched the back door, and grabbed the baseball bat from the coat closet. The broom had been retired from active duty. I turned all the lights on. Every single one. The living room looked like an interrogation room at that point. I even left the TV playing Friends reruns for moral support. By the time midnight rolled around, exhaustion was fighting paranoia for dominance. I told myself maybe the call was spam, maybe the noise was pipes, maybe the universe just hated me specifically. Then my phone buzzed again, a text. Unknown number. "See you soon." I dropped the phone like it burned me. When I picked it up again, the message was gone. Completely. No number, no record. Just the empty chat bubble like it had never happened. Miso meowed from the couch, unimpressed. I sighed, trying to laugh. Maybe I'm losing it, huh, buddy? But even as I joked, the truth was undeniable. Something was happening. Something that didn't care about logic or comfort or how many cops I called. That night, I lay awake, the ceiling fan spinning slow circles of dread. Every so often, I thought I heard faint whispers, too soft to understand, too human to ignore. By dawn, I'd convinced myself I was imagining everything. After all, denial's cheaper than therapy. But deep down, I knew the real horror wasn't that Lily might have seen someone. It was that someone saw her first. And whoever he wasn't done watching. That night, the house decided to audition for a horror movie. Every noise suddenly sounded like a death omen. The creak of floorboards? Ghost. The ticking clock? Countdown to doom. Even the fridge made a low hum that I swear whispered, "You messed up, buddy." I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but my imagination wasn't buying it. It had already packed its bags and moved into panic mode. I sat on the couch, lights on full blast, blanket wrapped around me like emotional armor, watching late-night TV I wasn't even processing. Miso was curled on the armrest, giving me that judgmental cat stare that said, "You're embarrassing the species. Don't look at me like that," I muttered. "You'd freak out too if someone might be living in your ceiling." He blinked slowly, which in cat language translates to weak human energy. The house popped again, a deep groan that came from somewhere upstairs. I froze mid-sip of my third cup of coffee. Great idea, by the way. Caffeine and paranoia, the perfect marriage. Old house, I said out loud, like affirmations would save me. Except our house wasn't old. It was built in 2019. The walls were practically millennials, modern, moody, and definitely not supposed to groan. I stood up, phone flashlight in hand, scanning the ceiling like I expected eyes to peer back. Nothing, just shadows. Then I noticed something weird. Harper's jewelry box, the sacred, forbidden chest of sparkly nonsense she guards like it's the Holy Grail, was open. I never touched that thing. Last time I did, she gave me a 10-minute TED talk on the difference between rose gold and gold. I walked over slowly. The box sat on her dresser, lid tilted open like an invitation to lose my mind. The velvet inside was empty in spots where rings used to be. "Okay, nope," I whispered. Nope. I hadn't been upstairs since Lily called. Harper hadn't been home for days. Unless the cat had developed a taste for jewelry, someone had been up here. I texted Harper immediately. "Me, did you open your jewelry box?" "Harper, no." "What?" I stared at her reply. What was I supposed to say? Oh, no reason. Just wondering which intruder accessorized before disappearing. Yeah, that wouldn't go over well. So I just left her on read and started pacing the room. My brain went full detective, connecting imaginary dots. Maybe the guy Lily saw took something. Maybe he's been in and out, using my attic as a freaking Airbnb. Maybe I should move to a studio apartment with cameras, bars, and zero attics. Then I heard it. A thump. Soft but definite. From inside the wall. I froze. Every cell in my body screamed run. But curiosity, the same trait that kills cats and dumb husbands, made me step closer. "Hello," I said, because apparently, I thought ghosts followed conversational etiquette. Silence. Then, another noise. Like fingernails dragging lightly on drywall. I backed away, grabbing the baseball bat from beside the dresser. "Not today, Casper." I swung open the closet door expecting, I don't know, a serial killer knitting sweaters. Nothing. Just Harper's mountain of shoes and a faint smell of lavender detergent. I pushed aside a row of dresses, tapped the wall, listened. The sound stopped. I exhaled slowly. Okay. You're fine. You're just tired." Except the house disagreed. A floorboard behind me creaked, loud and deliberate. I spun around so fast I nearly clocked myself with the bat. The hallway was empty. The air felt heavier now, like the oxygen was thinking twice about being there. I decided to bail. I'm not ashamed. Bravery is for people who don't pay mortgages. I grabbed my keys, scooped up Miso, who protested violently, and bolted downstairs. The living room light flickered just once on my way out, like it was winking at me. Cute. Real comforting. Outside, the night was calm. Too calm. Crickets chirped. A distant car whooshed by. I locked the door, double-checked it, and sat on the porch steps, clutching the cat like a stressed Disney princess. This is fine, I told myself. People live with weird house noises all the time. Miso yawned like he wasn't buying it either. After about 20 minutes of pretending to enjoy the fresh air, I forced myself back inside. I checked every room again. Windows closed, locks engaged, everything in place. Nothing moved. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was listening. When I finally lay down, I kept the bat beside me and left the lamp on. My phone buzzed once with a spam notification. Limited time offer. Protect your home with 24/7 security monitoring. The universe had jokes. Sleep didn't come easy. My brain ran highlight reels of every scary movie I'd ever seen, starring me as the idiot who investigates noises instead of leaving. I drifted in and out, dreams mixing with paranoia. At some point, I thought I heard footsteps, soft, measured, like someone pacing above me. When I jolted awake, the clock read 3:12 a.m. I sat up, heart pounding. "You're imagining it," I muttered, but my voice didn't sound convinced. I grabbed my phone, opened the flashlight app again, and pointed it toward the ceiling. Nothing. Just quiet. I exhaled and lay back down. The moment my eyes shut, another creak. Closer this time. "Okay, you know what?" I whispered to the dark. "You can have the house. I'll just move into my car." By sunrise, I was a zombie with caffeine dependency. I dragged myself to the kitchen, made coffee, and stared blankly at the toaster like it owed me an explanation. I decided to call a contractor friend, Mike, who owes me a favor after I helped him move last summer. "Yo," he answered, voice groggy. "You know it's 7 a.m. on a Sunday, right?" "Yeah, and you know how to fix walls, right?" "Because mine are making sounds." Pause. "Sounds." "Yeah. Groaning, scratching, you name it. Either I've got plumbing issues or squatters in the drywall." He chuckled. "Relax, man. Probably pipes expanding. Happens all the time. Pipes don't open jewelry boxes, Mike." That shut him up. "You sure Harper didn't? She's been gone all week." "Okay, that's creepy. I'll swing by tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" I groaned. "What if my house eats me tonight?" "Then I'll get your tools," he said and hung up. Classic Mike. The rest of the day was uneventful, which somehow made it worse. I kept waiting for something to happen. I even found myself talking to the cameras I'd installed last week. George, Linda, and Steve, my new roommates. "All right, team," I said, sipping coffee. "If anything moves, scream louder than my mortgage." By evening, the exhaustion hit. Harper texted, "Home tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you." I stared at the message, torn between excitement and dread. Did I tell her? No. She'd think I'd been binge-watching Paranormal Files again. Better to wait until there's, evidence. That night, I decided to record the sounds. Proof. I set my phone on the nightstand, voice recorder app running, and tried to sleep. I even whispered to the ceiling, "Don't do anything until I hit record." At around midnight, the house began its usual symphony. Creaks, groans, a faint scratching noise near the vent. I tried to ignore it, but then came something new, a whisper. So soft I thought it was the wind at first. A faint, drawn-out hiss, like someone exhaling words into the wall. I held my breath. "Hello?" No reply, but the whisper stopped. Then the vent rattled once, twice, and went still. I didn't sleep after that. When dawn came, I checked the recording. Static, creaks, the occasional me muttering to myself, and then, faintly, between two groans, a whisper. Just one word, distorted but clear enough to freeze my spine. It said, "Stay." That's when I realized this wasn't just a house making noise. It was a house with opinions. I sat there staring at the waveform on my phone, heart hammering. My rational side tried to make sense of it. Audio glitch, wind, bad app mic. But my gut whispered move. Right now? I spent the next few hours pacing, drinking coffee, and staring at the ceiling like it might blink. When Harper texted again asking for a grocery list, I almost replied, "Exorcist." By the time night rolled around again, I had a plan. A stupid, desperate plan, but a plan nonetheless. I was going to set up motion sensors, lights, and cameras pointed directly at the ceiling. If something was there, I'd catch it on video. I wanted evidence before Harper got home. Proof I wasn't crazy, or at least proof that my crazy came with receipts. As I plugged in the last sensor, Miso perched on the counter, tail twitching. "You think I'm nuts, don't you?" I said. He blinked, unimpressed. I flicked off the main lights, leaving the sensors glowing faint red. The house felt quiet. Too quiet. I stood in the middle of the living room, listening. Nothing. Then, from upstairs, came a faint creak, followed by a low, guttural groan that rolled through the beams like the house was sighing. Every light flickered at once. Miso hissed and bolted under the couch. "Okay," I muttered. "Cool. Totally normal. Houses just moan sometimes." My phone pinged. A notification from the security app. Motion detected. Upstairs. I looked at the screen. The camera feed showed the hallway, empty, except the attic hatch, swinging slightly. I swallowed hard. Right. Pipes definitely do that. I could have left then. Should have. But no. Apparently I was auditioning for World's Dumbest Homeowner. I crept up the stairs again, bat in hand, adrenaline buzzing. The hatch stopped moving. The air was cold enough to see my breath. I stared up at it, whispering to no one. If you're up there, congratulations, you win. I'm leaving. I backed down the steps, never breaking eye contact with the ceiling, and grabbed my keys. As I opened the front door, one final groan echoed through the house. Deep, heavy, and almost disappointed. I didn't stick around to analyze tone. That night, I slept in my car outside a 24-hour diner with Miso in the passenger seat, both of us staring at the glowing sign like refugees of our own stupidity. I ordered coffee and told the waitress. Long story short, my house might be haunted. She poured me a refill without missing a beat. You and half this town, honey. And for the first time all week, I laughed. A short, tired laugh. Because maybe she was right. Or maybe I just hadn't heard the house's final words yet. By the next morning, I'd reached the point where caffeine had replaced blood and paranoia was my emotional support animal. I was done pretending that the creaks, whispers, and attic gymnastics were just house noises. Nope. I needed eyes everywhere. If the universe was going to gaslight me, it was getting recorded in 1080p. So I drove straight to the electronics store like a man possessed. The kid behind the counter looked 12. Braces, shaggy hair, that unearned confidence of someone who's never paid property tax. His name tag said Miles. He squinted at me. Morning, sir. You look like you've seen some things. I've heard some things, I muttered, eyeing a wall of security cameras like a survivalist stocking up for apocalypse season. I need cameras. Lots of cameras. Miles perked up, probably smelling commission. Home security, or are we talking streaming setup? Neither. I just want to know if something's crawling through my ceiling at night. He blinked twice. Like rats. Like tall rats with human hair and a grudge. The kid didn't even flinch. Gen Z, man. You could tell them Bigfoot runs a podcast, and they'd ask for the link. Cool. You'll want the Guardian Pro kit. Motion sensors, night vision, app control. 10-camera package. I'll take 12. He raised a brow. You catching a cheater or starting a YouTube channel? Neither. I said deadpan. Just trying not to die in my sleep. Miles gave me a look halfway between impressed and terrified. Respect. I left the store $900 poorer and one step closer to founding my own surveillance state. On the drive home, I imagined the Amazon review I'd write if this worked. 5 stars. Caught my attic goblin. Would recommend. Setting the equipment up took the entire afternoon. The instruction manual was written by someone who assumed you already had a degree in electrical engineering and patience. I had neither. By the 3rd page, I was muttering to myself like a deranged tech support agent. Attach bracket A to wall B with screw C. Yeah, sure, if I knew what the hell wall B even is. But I'm stubborn. 2 hours later, I had cameras covering every strategic point. Hallways, bedrooms, kitchen, even one pointed directly at the attic hatch. I named them because I needed the illusion of friends. All right, I said aloud, checking the app on my phone. George, you get the hallway. Linda, the living room. Steve, kitchen duty. Don't screw this up, Steve. Steve immediately froze on the screen. The feed lagged. Unbelievable. Lazy already. By the time Harper called during her lunch break, I was elbow deep in wires and existential dread. Hey babe, she chirped. What's all that noise? You remodeling. Upgrading. Upgrading what? Our odds of surviving the night. Pause. What? Never mind. You'll love it. The house is now Fort Knox with Wi-Fi. She sighed. You've been watching too many horror movies. Actually, the horror's been watching me. Uh-huh. Fine. Laugh now, but when my cameras go viral on CNN, don't say I didn't warn you. She chuckled, that patronizing sound lawyers make when they think they've won the argument. All right, Mr. Paranormal Activity, just don't drill holes in my paintings. Noted. After hanging up, I sat back and admired my handiwork. Every angle of the house now lived on my phone screen. For the first time in days, I felt a weird sense of control. Like maybe if I could see the problem, it'd finally make sense. I spent the next few hours testing motion alerts by waving my arms like a deranged traffic conductor. George beeped. Linda caught my reflection. Steve still lagged. I gave up on him. You're on probation, Steve. Evening rolled in. I ordered pizza because no one cooks while being haunted, and sat on the couch watching all 12 feeds like a budget version of the Pentagon. I half expected nothing to happen, which was fine. Boring was the new sexy. But around 11 p.m., one of the motion indicators blinked red. Hallway cam. I leaned forward. On the screen, the empty corridor stretched silent and still. The sensor's timestamp ticked, 11:03:21. 11:03:22, nothing moved. Probably just a glitch, right? Then the attic hatch trembled. Barely, but enough to make my stomach drop. The camera focused automatically, pixels sharpening on the thin line of the hatch frame. For a full 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then, ever so slowly, it shifted. Not open, just nudged. Like something tested it. My mouth went dry. I whispered at the phone like it could hear me. You seeing this, George? No response, obviously, because I was losing my mind and talking to cameras. Then, silence again. The hatch stopped moving. I hit replay, heart pounding, trying to convince myself it was the house settling. But what doesn't settle in small, deliberate motions? I closed the app, threw the phone on the table, and paced. Okay, maybe it's air pressure. Temperature difference. Science crap. The ceiling groaned right above me. I froze mid-step. Or it's Owen the air pressure demon. Cool. I decided not to be stupid this time. I wasn't going up there. No way. Instead, I cracked open the window curtains just enough to see my reflection. My face looked pale and ridiculous, a sleep-deprived ghost hunter in sweatpants. You wanted answers, I muttered. Now you've got goosebumps and regrets. I called Detective Nia Monroe, the officer from the second visit. Straight shooter, calm voice, eyes like she'd already seen everything humanity had to offer. When she picked up, I blurted, Detective, sorry, it's Grant. Weird stuff's still happening. Define weird. I've got footage of my attic hatch opening on its own. Slowly, like something's testing it. Pause. You sure it wasn't airflow? Detective, my house is sealed tighter than a lawyer's wallet. All right, she said after a sigh. I'll swing by tomorrow morning. Can tomorrow morning be now? It's 11:30 p.m. I'll make coffee. See you tomorrow, Mr. Grant. Click. I set the phone down, muttering to myself. Awesome. The one time I actually want a cop to hang out. She's got boundaries. Sleep was out of the question. I kept the cameras open all night, refreshing like a man addicted to anxiety. At some point around 2 a.m., I must have dozed off on the couch. When I woke, the morning sun filtered through the blinds, and the first thing I saw was Steve's frozen feet again. Unbelievable, I grumbled. Fired. At 8 a.m., the doorbell rang. Detective Monroe stood there, coffee in one hand, that permanent half-smile of someone who doesn't do small talk. Morning, she said. Show me this spooky footage. I pulled up the app and played the clip. She leaned over my shoulder, watching closely. When the hatch twitched, she nodded slowly. Interesting. That's Cop 4, you're not crazy, right? It's Cop 4, we'll find out. Can I check the attic? Be my guest. I'm never stepping up there again unless Jesus himself signs off. She climbed up the pull-down ladder while I hovered nervously below like a toddler waiting for snack approval. Dust floated down. A minute passed. Then came her voice. You might want to see this. Nope. I absolutely did not want to see this. But I went anyway, because curiosity and stupidity are close cousins. The attic was low and dark, the kind of place that instantly smells like secrets. I followed her flashlight beam to a corner behind insulation panels. Blankets. Empty food wrappers. A water bottle. Someone's been living up here, she said quietly. My throat went dry. In my house. She nodded. And they've been here for a while. Then she picked up something I hadn't noticed. A small, spiral notebook. She opened it, and I swear even the air stopped moving. Inside were pages of sketches. Faces, dozens of them, drawn in pencil but violently crossed out with thick, angry strokes. Under each one, written in cramped handwriting, she doesn't belong here. I felt my stomach twist. Wow. That's exactly the kind of souvenir I didn't need today. Detective Monroe closed the notebook carefully. We'll dust for prints. You and your wife should stay somewhere else tonight. I nodded dumbly, still staring at the spot where someone had been sleeping above my head. The thought hit like ice water. He'd been there while I showered, ate dinner, slept. My so-called harmless noises hadn't been the house at all. They'd been him. On our way down, I tried humor to keep from unraveling. So, I'm guessing this isn't just a raccoon with hobbies? Monroe shot me a dry look. Unless raccoons can write in cursive, some of them went to college. Pack a bag, Mr. Grant. She left with the evidence, promising patrols and lab work. I locked the door behind her and leaned against it, exhaling hard. The silence in the house felt different now. Not eerie, just empty. Like it had been holding its breath too. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through the footage again, staring at that moment the hatch moved. Behind it all, I could hear faint scratching, subtle, rhythmic, almost human. That was the night my paranoia stopped being paranoia and became fact. I looked up at the ceiling one last time and muttered, DIY spy level 100, baby. But somehow, I still feel like I lost. I've seen horror movies where the idiot rewinds the cursed tape, and every time I yell, don't. Apparently, I yell at myself now, because guess who stayed up re-watching attic footage like it was Shark Week? Home Invasion Edition. Detective Monroe had taken the creepy sketchbook, but she hadn't taken my insomnia. So I parked myself on the couch with a blanket burrito and a bowl of pretzels, ready to confirm that the universe really did hate me. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the timestamp that would soon become my emotional support trauma, the motion alert pinged. The app buzzed, the little red dot blinked, and half asleep me thought, probably Miso. Spoiler, it wasn't the cat. I opened the feed and instantly forgot how lungs worked. On screen, the attic hatch moved. Slow, deliberate, like someone savoring the drama. A pale hand slid through the crack. Thin fingers, dirt under the nails, the kind of hand that's seen more crawl spaces than daylight. Then the rest of him followed. Tall, messy hair, skin so white he could have been part flower. And the hoodie, my old gray sweatshirt from college. I hadn't worn that thing in months. I actually said out loud, bro, that's vintage. He climbed down with the grace of a drunk sloth, landing softly on the hallway carpet. No hesitation. He moved like the place belonged to him, like I was the intruder. He turned toward the bedroom. My bedroom. My first thought wasn't call the cops. It was don't breathe too loud. You'll scare the Wi-Fi. He paused by the door, head tilted, listening. I watched, paralyzed, while 2:13 became 2:14. He reached for the doorknob, then stopped, just stood there, staring at the bed. My bed was empty because I'd passed out on the couch downstairs, wrapped in my dumb, world's best husband blanket Harper bought as a joke. The irony wasn't lost on me. For 6 full minutes, he didn't move. 6. I counted. He just watched, breathing slow, shoulders rising and falling, like he was memorizing the space. Then, without warning, he turned and walked back down the hall. Camera George followed him until he reached the ladder, climbed up, and disappeared into the darkness. Hatch closed. Gone. The timestamp froze at 2:19 a.m. I sat there, phone shaking in my hands, whispering to no one. Well, guess I'm never sleeping again. I replayed it 3 more times because apparently trauma needs multiple takes. Same sequence, same ghostly confidence, same sweatshirt. I noticed tiny details I'd missed. The dirt smudges on the wall, the faint reflection of his face in a picture frame. He wasn't just pale, he was gray, like the color had drained out of him. And his eyes, those weren't eyes that belonged to someone sane. They looked hungry. Miso jumped onto my lap mid-replay and nearly killed me via heart attack. Congratulations, I hissed. You're the scariest thing in the house that's actually supposed to be here. He purred, unbothered, like he'd been in on the secret the whole time. By 3 a.m., I had paced a groove into the living room rug. Call the police again? Sure. But what would they do? Arrest a grainy shadow? Jenkins would roll his eyes, Monroe would sigh, and I'd become that guy in the department notes. See also, paranoid homeowner with cameras named after coworkers. Still, adrenaline demanded action. I went full DIY FBI. I downloaded the footage frame by frame, zoomed, enhanced, adjusted brightness like a TV detective who believes in pixels. At one point, I actually whispered, enhance, to my laptop. Nothing happened, obviously. All I got was a freeze frame of the guy's half-smile, twisted and stretched by the night vision filter. He looked like he'd been waiting for applause. I decided to check the attic myself at sunrise. Stupid? Absolutely. But by then I was too wired to care. I waited until the first light cut through the blinds, because sunlight means safety, right? Hollywood told me so. I grabbed the bat, my phone, and, because I'm a man of culture, duct taped a flashlight to it. Tactical innovation at its finest. Pulling that attic ladder felt like opening a cursed treasure chest. The wood groaned as it unfolded, every creak mocking me. The air that drifted down smelled like dust, sweat, and something metallic. I climbed slowly, muttering my last while under my breath. If I die, delete my browser history and feed the cat premium. The attic was exactly how we'd left it after Monroe's visit. Blankets, wrappers, empty bottles. But now there was something new. A torn scrap of paper pinned to the insulation with a nail. My name, written in shaky handwriting. Evan. Just that. No threat, no message. Somehow that was worse. I backed down the ladder so fast I almost broke an ankle. Nope, 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 I said, because repetition is the only language of fear. I slammed the hatch shut and dragged the stepladder away like that would stop gravity. That was the moment Harper chose to call. Perfect timing, universe. Morning, babe. Guess what? I got the day off. I'm heading home early. My voice cracked. Oh, great. Love that for us. You okay? You sound like you're hiding something. Just excitement. And maybe a mild haunting. What? Nothing. Drive safe. Click. I stared at the phone like it betrayed me. Harper walking into this circus would be the cherry on my mental breakdown Sunday. I decided to email Monroe the clip. No more pretending. Subject line, Attic Guy 2, the sequel. I attached the file and hit send. Then I sat there, sipping cold coffee, waiting for either a call from her or an exorcist. She called 20 minutes later. Mr. Grant, I saw the video. And that's definitely a person. We're running it through facial recognition. Awesome. Meanwhile, should I keep living here or move directly into a bunker? Stay somewhere else tonight. I'll have a patrol swing by hourly. Hourly. So I just die in the 49 minutes between. She didn't laugh. Tough crowd. The rest of the day was a blur of jump scares caused by nothing. Every time the refrigerator clicked, I flinched like it pulled a knife. I worked remotely from the couch because apparently that's what you do when your house has sublet its attic to a sociopath. Around noon, a delivery guy rang the doorbell and I nearly declared war. Package for Evan Grant? He asked. Buddy, I said, signing shakily. Unless that box contains holy water, you might want to run. By evening, Harper texted she'd be home in an hour. I considered faking my death to buy time. Instead, I vacuumed, because apparently terror activates domestic instincts. If she was going to walk into chaos, at least it'd be tidy chaos. At 8 p.m., she arrived. The moment she stepped in, Miso ran to her like she was salvation itself. She laughed, dropping her purse. Wow, the house is spotless. You finally snapped. Define snapped. She looked around. Where's the new decor? Cameras? Motion lights? Did you turn our home into Fort Knox? Yes. You're welcome. She frowned. Evan, what's going on? I sighed. Okay, promise you won't freak out. Those are famous last words. So I showed her. The footage. The man. The hatch. Her face went from confusion to horror in real time. When it ended, she just whispered. That was right outside our room. Yup. And he was wearing your sweatshirt. Apparently, he shops in my closet rent-free. She stared at me, pale. We're leaving. For once, I agree. We packed essentials, clothes, toothbrushes, the cat carrier, and bolted for the door like contestants on The Amazing Race, Haunted Edition. But halfway down the driveway, Harper stopped. Wait, my necklace. The one Dad gave me. It's in the jewelry box. Harper, that box is cursed. It's sentimental. It's bait. She gave me the lawyer look that ends all arguments. 2 minutes. I groaned and followed her back inside because no man has ever won against logic and nostalgia combined. The house was quiet. Too quiet, of course. She ran upstairs while I hovered at the bottom, gripping the bat. The hallway light flickered once, just enough to make me say, nope, under my breath. Then she screamed. I sprinted up, heart detonating, and found her standing by the dresser, hand over her mouth. The jewelry box was open again, the necklace gone, and on the mirror, written in something reddish-brown, 2 words, not her. Harper backed away, shaking. Is that paint? I lied immediately, because marriage is 50% comfort and 50% creative lying. Definitely paint. We're leaving now. We grabbed what we had and got in the car. I floored it out of the driveway. eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds. The house shrank behind us, quiet and smug. At the hotel, Harper sat on the bed clutching Miso's carrier. "He could have killed us," she whispered. "Yeah. Instead, he redecorated. We got lucky." She didn't laugh. I couldn't either. I emailed Monroe again, attached a photo of the mirror message, captioned, "You still think it's airflow?" Her reply came within minutes. "We're sending a forensic team first thing. Don't go back." No argument there. I cracked open a minibar beer, looked at Harper, and tried humor one last time. "On the bright side, honey, at least our marriage counselor can't say we don't communicate. We've got shared trauma now." She didn't answer, just stared at the wall. I took a long sip, staring too. For a moment, the silence felt almost peaceful. Then, from the hotel's ceiling vent, a faint creak echoed. Just one. Probably pipes. Probably. I glanced up, muttering to myself, "If you followed me here, at least start paying rent." And right then, my phone buzzed with a new motion alert from home. 2:13 a.m. again. I didn't open it. I just turned the screen face down and whispered, "Nope, not tonight." Morning arrived, and for the first time in my life, I was disappointed to see sunlight. It didn't feel like safety anymore. It just meant I had to start pretending everything was normal again. Harper was still asleep in the hotel bed, half buried under the blanket, while I sat in a chair by the window, sipping burnt lobby coffee and trying to convince myself I hadn't imagined the last 48 hours. Spoiler, I hadn't. The photo of the mirror message on my phone said otherwise. At 8:02 a.m. sharp, Detective Monroe called. Her voice sounded like black coffee, strong, no sugar. "Mr. Grant, we're at your house. You might want to come. Come back there?" That's bold of you to assume I'm still emotionally attached to that mortgage. I think you'll want to see this. I looked at Harper, still sleeping, face soft and tired. "We'll be there in 30, I lied. I wasn't bringing her within 10 miles of that attic. I left her a note. Breakfast downstairs. Don't panic. Might bring holy water. And drove home with Miso in the passenger seat because I'd seen enough movies to know cats can sense evil. If he hissed, I was flooring it. The house looked deceptively peaceful in daylight. No flashing lights, no ominous fog machine. Just my clean little suburban crime scene, pretending it hadn't hosted a squatters' convention in the ceiling. 2 patrol cars idled out front. Monroe met me at the door wearing latex gloves, and that same unshakable calm that made me both trust and resent her. "Morning," she said, like this was just another Tuesday. "We found a few things." She led me inside. The air smelled like bleach and stale fear. A forensics tech was photographing the hallway while another dusted the attic ladder for prints. "Good news," Monroe said. "You were right. Someone lived here. The insulation's flattened, and there are fresh food wrappers from about a week ago." "Fantastic," I said. "Do I get a discount on property tax for providing affordable housing to lunatics?" She ignored me, walking toward the kitchen. "We also found this." She pointed at a muddy trail of partial footprints, bare feet, wide-set toes, leading from the attic ladder to the back door. "Whoever it was left last night. So he's gone. For now. Great. Nothing like an open-ended threat to start your day." One of the techs called from the attic. "Detective, there's a notebook up here." Monroe and I climbed up, though I made sure she went first because my chivalry ends where nightmares begin. The attic looked worse than before. Someone had been rearranging things. Blankets moved, trash spread out, a little pile of what looked suspiciously like trinkets in the corner. Monroe crouched and picked up the notebook with tongs. "Same handwriting as before," she said. The first few pages were more sketches, faces, all with the eyes scratched out, but new ones included. People I actually recognized. My neighbor Mrs. Patterson, the mailman. And then, at the bottom of the stack, a drawing of Harper. Her hair, her smile, perfect. Except this one hadn't been scratched out. Instead, beneath it, in heavy pencil strokes, "She doesn't belong here." I felt my stomach twist. That line again. What does that even mean? Monroe glanced at me. Could be fixation, could be delusion. He may have fixated on your wife for some reason. Lucky us. As she bagged the notebook, something shiny caught my eye among the junk pile. I reached down, earning a death glare from her for touching evidence, and picked up a small silver chain. Harper's necklace, the one she'd gone back for. I held it up, trying to keep my voice steady. Guess he wanted a souvenir. The detective exhaled. This is turning into a stalker case. We'll run prints and check local shelters, abandoned buildings, anywhere someone like this could hide. Define someone like this. The kind who leaves notes and collects personal items, she said flatly. Obsessive, territorial, unpredictable. Wonderful adjectives. Really reassuring. We climbed down, and she dispatched the text to sweep the rest of the property. I followed her outside, rubbing the back of my neck. So what do? Burn the house down? Move to Canada? Stay at the hotel for now. Change your locks, install floodlights. We'll keep a patrol on rotation. You're saying that like I'm sleeping again anytime soon. She actually cracked a small smile. Try. And keep your phone on. When she left, I stood in the driveway staring at the house. It looked empty, harmless. But I could feel him in there, his presence clinging to the walls like mold. I opened my car door, ready to leave, when I noticed something odd on the hood. A folded piece of paper under the wiper. I unfolded it slowly, half expecting a jump scare. It was a crude hand-drawn map of my backyard. The fence, the shed, the tree line, and a little X marked behind the shed. No note. No name. Just that. Okay, I said aloud. We're doing side quests now. Every instinct said call Monroe. Every dumb male gene said let's investigate. I sighed, grabbed my phone, and followed the map like an idiot who's never learned from horror movies. The grass was still damp from last night's rain. Behind the shed, the soil looked disturbed, freshly dug, then half covered again. I knelt down, using a stick to move dirt aside. A few inches in, something metal glinted. I dug with my hands, adrenaline buzzing, until I pulled out a small tin box, rusted and dented. My pulse hammered. I opened it carefully. Inside were photos. Old ones. Printed snapshots of me and Harper, taken from outside the house. Us in the kitchen. Harper watering the lawn. Me taking out the trash. Some were zoomed in, grainy, but definitely us. Someone had been watching for months. The bottom of the box held a single Polaroid, me asleep on the couch. Date stamped 2 weeks ago. I dropped it like it burned. Oh hell no. I sprinted back to the car, calling Monroe again. She answered on the first ring. Grant. I found something. A box of pictures. Of us. Hidden behind the shed. Silence. Then, don't touch anything else. We're on our way. Yeah. Don't worry. I'm not digging up more of his fan mail. I waited in the driveway, trying not to vomit. When the patrol car pulled up, Monroe's partner, Officer Ramirez, a tall guy with the patience of a saint, took the box and photographed the area. You sure this wasn't here before? He asked. I mow my lawn weekly. If I missed a buried stalker starter pack, I'd like to think I'd remember. He nodded grimly. He's escalating. Define escalating, because my stress levels already hit skyscraper. Ramirez just said, if he's leaving you messages now, he wants you to know he's watching. Perfect. Nothing like being the main character in someone else's obsession. After the cops left again, I called Harper. Babe, I said, trying to sound casual. Fun update. You're officially amused to a psycho. She gasped. What? What did they find? Let's just say we made his Pinterest board. Her breathing quickened. We're not going back there, Evan. Promise me. I promise, I said, though a stupid part of me still wanted to understand why us. Stay at the hotel. Keep the doors locked. And maybe sleep in shifts with the cat. That night, I sat in the car outside the house with the cameras pulled up on my phone. Yeah, I know. I'd promised not to come back. But curiosity and caffeine are a deadly combo. The feeds were quiet, empty rooms, soft static. Midnight passed. 1 a.m. came and went. At 1:47, motion alert. Backyard. I tapped the feed. The camera caught faint movement near the fence line. A shape. Tall. Lean. Just standing there, facing the house. Not moving. Just looking. I zoomed in. The night vision flared green and grainy, but I could see enough. It was him. Owen, according to Monroe's files. Barefoot, filthy, smiling like this was a family reunion. He lifted his hand slowly, pressed a finger to his lips, and pointed toward the house. Then he turned and vanished into the woods. I sat frozen, gripping my phone. The timestamp read 1:48 a.m. I called Monroe again, whispering even though I was alone. He's back. Backyard. Just now. Stay in your car. We're dispatching units. 5 minutes later, sirens cut through the quiet. Patrol cars rolled up, lights flashing across my driveway like a disco for bad decisions. Officers swept the property, flashlights slicing through the dark. They found tracks, bare footprints again, leading toward the creek behind our subdivision, then vanishing in the mud. Monroe looked furious now, not calm. He's taunting us. Taunting me, I corrected. You're just the audience. She stared at me, probably debating whether to lecture me for coming back. You need protection detail. Can I request the kind that doesn't involve dying? I'm serious. We'll file for a restraining order and relocate you both temporarily. Great, I said, exhaling. So now I'm haunted and homeless. When they left, I followed the patrol cars back to the hotel, brain spinning. The words from the notebook echoed in my head. She doesn't belong here. What did that mean? Not in the house. Not with me. Was this guy trying to save her or destroy her? I unlocked the hotel door quietly. Harper was awake, sitting up with miso in her lap. What happened? She whispered. He came back, I said. And he's not done. Her face paled. What do we do now? I sank onto the edge of the bed, rubbing my eyes. Now? We wait for the next clue in his creepy scavenger hunt. She stared at me, horrified. Evan, that's not funny. I know, I said softly. It's not a joke. It's a pattern. I didn't tell her the part that really scared me, the part where he pointed at the house, not her. Because deep down, I was starting to wonder if maybe the house wasn't just a hiding spot to him. Maybe it was something else entirely. By Monday morning, I was on a first-name basis with every cop in the precinct and every sleepless ghost in my imagination. Harper was barely talking to me. Some combination of exhaustion, fear, and the creeping suspicion she'd married a man who now spoke fluent paranoia. I didn't blame her. Our life had turned into a mashup between Dateline and The Office, and I was both the victim and the idiot narrator. Detective Monroe had promised extra patrols around the property, but the only lights I saw flashing were from Mrs. Patterson's Christmas decorations that she refused to take down in April. I'd gone from loving that woman's holiday spirit to plotting how to cut her power. Harper sat at the edge of the hotel bed, scrolling through Zillow listings. We should just sell it, she said. Walk away. Start over somewhere warm. Maybe Florida. Florida, I said. You want to trade one haunted swamp for another? She glared. Evan, I'm just saying, if we move to Florida, statistically the ghost will have an alligator roommate. She didn't laugh. Lately she'd stopped laughing at everything. Which, fair. Laughter requires REM sleep and the absence of death threats. I promised I'd stay put, let the cops handle it, focus on finding us a new place. That lasted roughly 5 hours. Then curiosity knocked, and by curiosity, I mean old Mr. Daniels from next door called me. Evan, he rasped, the kind of voice that made you smell cigar smoke through the phone. You still having trouble with that fella? I hesitated. Define trouble. The tall one. Pale as chalk. Eyes like a raccoon that lost custody of its kids. Seen him again last night. I gripped the phone. Where? By your fence. 3 a.m. Thought he was a landscaper till I remembered it's the middle of the night. Did you call the cops? Nah. I waved my flashlight and yelled, get off my lawn. He ran toward the creek. Of course he did. The creek, the same direction he'd vanished before. I told Harper I had to swing by the house to meet the insurance guy. She gave me a look that said insurance guy my ass. I kissed her forehead and left anyway, because I have the survival instincts of a horror movie extra. The neighborhood looked painfully normal under the noon sun. Kids rode bikes. Sprinklers hissed. Somewhere a lawnmower droned like an oblivious soundtrack. Yet I could feel it, the tension humming beneath the suburban perfection. My house sat there, blinds closed, pretending it hadn't been ground zero for a stalker's Airbnb. Mr. Daniels shuffled out of his porch chair as I pulled up. He was in his 70s, retired Air Force, the kind of man who still ironed his socks. Told the officer what I saw, he said, pointing a shaky finger toward the fence. Tall fella, hoodie, carrying a toolbox. A toolbox? Yeah. Thought he was one of them contractors at first. Walked like he knew where he was going. I peered at the fence line. The grass was pressed down, faint tracks leading toward the creek. Did you get a good look at his face? Daniel squinted. Couldn't. Shadows. But he smiled when the light hit him. Not a normal smile. The kind that says, I know where you sleep. Cool. Totally fine. I love that for me. Inside the house, everything smelled faintly of disinfectant from the forensics cleanup. My own reflection in the window startled me. I looked like the ghost now. I checked every camera, every sensor. All green. No movement since last night. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. You ever stand somewhere so quiet you start hearing your own blood? That was the vibe. I went into the kitchen to grab bottled water and noticed something odd. One of the cameras, Steve, the eternally lazy one, had been unplugged. The cord hung loose from the outlet. I stared at it. I definitely hadn't unplugged him. Steve, I muttered, if you betrayed me, I'm deleting your cloud account. I plugged it back in, checked the feed. Static, then normal. I was about to leave when a knock hit the back door. Soft, deliberate. My heart stopped. I turned slowly. Through the glass, a woman stood on the porch, mid-30s, messy blonde hair, wide eyes. She looked terrified. Please, she mouthed. Can I come in? Every alarm in my brain went off. This was how horror movies started. Random strangers begging entry seconds before the plot murders you. But she looked real. Human. Desperate. I cracked the door an inch. Who are you? My name's Jenny, she said quickly. I live 2 blocks over. You're the guy from the news, right? The one with the man in the attic? I exhaled. That's me. Neighborhood celebrity. She glanced behind her, nervous. I think he's been in my house too. Okay, that sentence required coffee and emotional support, neither of which I had. Start from the beginning. She stepped inside, wringing her hands. A few nights ago, I heard footsteps in my ceiling. My husband's deployed, so I called my brother to check. We didn't find anything, but yesterday, I found this. She handed me a crumpled piece of paper. On it, the same handwriting as the notebook. She doesn't belong here. I stared at it, stomach dropping. You're sure it's the same guy? I saw him last night. In my backyard. Watching my window. We both jumped when my phone rang. Detective Monroe. Grant, we've been canvassing the creek area. Found evidence someone's been sleeping in a shed near the edge of the subdivision. My voice was tight. What kind of evidence? Blankets, empty cans, and drawings, same style as before. We're bringing you in to confirm. I looked at Jenny. He's close. She shivered. Too close. We followed the detective's directions to the far end of the neighborhood, where an old maintenance shed sat half hidden by weeds. The cops had already pried it open. Inside smelled like mildew and canned beans. A single sleeping bag lay in the corner, along with scraps of paper taped to the walls. My stomach turned. They were drawings again, faces of residents. Mr. Daniels, Mrs. Patterson, Jenny, me, and right in the center, larger than the rest, Harper. She's the only one not crossed out, Monroe said quietly. Jenny covered her mouth. Oh my God, I forced myself to look closer. Beneath Harper's portrait were 3 words this time. She belongs below. I whispered, below what? Monroe gestured to one of the officers. Search the ground. They moved the sleeping bag aside, revealing a loose wooden board in the floor. One officer pried it up. Underneath was a small pit, hand-dug, maybe 3 feet deep. At the bottom sat another notebook and a rusted hammer. The detective's face hardened. He's been planning something. Jenny stepped back, trembling. I can't stay here. You shouldn't, Monroe said. We'll arrange a patrol near your place too. I pulled her aside. Jenny, thank you for coming forward. Seriously, you might have saved lives. She nodded, eyes glassy. If you see him again, tell the police he whistles. Like a song. Daisy Bell. Daisy Bell? As in bicycle built for 2? She nodded again. He hummed it while standing under my window. Great. A homicidal attic squatter with a soundtrack. 10 out of 10 nightmare rating. Back at the house, Monroe bagged the new evidence. We'll get DNA off the hammer. Once we match it, we'll issue a warrant. For what? Ghost trespassing. For Owen Keller, she said. We identified him. No criminal record, but he grew up a few towns over. Parents died in a fire when he was 16. Lived in foster homes. He disappeared 5 years ago. I blinked. So why my house? She glanced toward the attic. Still figuring that out. But I think he believes something. Or someone. Here belongs to him. I laughed hollow. Yeah. Well, he can have the mortgage. Monroe's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then looked at me sharply. Units just spotted movement near the creek again. We're going. I followed her outside despite her glare that clearly said stay put. Old habits die harder than ghosts. We reached the creek line within minutes, flashlights cutting across the mud. Something moved in the trees, a flash of gray hoodie, and vanished. Officers spread out, shouting commands. Police, show your hands. Nothing but the rush of water and the occasional frog that clearly didn't care about law enforcement. Then a voice drifted from the dark. Low. Calm. She doesn't belong here. The sound came from everywhere at once, bouncing off the trees. Harper's name echoed in my head. Monroe motioned for silence. We listened. Nothing. Then a soft whistle. Daisy Bell. Every hair on my neck stood up. Where is he? I whispered. Monroe scanned the brush. He's watching. Yeah, no kidding. A shadow darted between the trees. One officer gave chase, but by the time we reached the spot, he was gone. Only footprints leading back toward the subdivision. Monroe cursed under her breath. He's playing games. I stared into the darkness, chest tight. He knows I came back. He's leading us somewhere. She turned. Grant, get back to the hotel. We'll handle it. But I couldn't move. My phone buzzed with a new notification, motion detected. From the hotel camera. My stomach dropped. Harper. I opened the feed. The hallway camera outside our hotel room showed the door slightly ajar. A shadow crossed the frame, tall, thin, unmistakable. Owen. He leaned close to the camera, smiled, and whispered one word that the mic barely caught. Found. I didn't think. I just ran. Monroe shouted after me. But the world blurred. The creek, the flashing lights, the sirens, all fading under the roar of blood in my ears. By the time I reached the hotel, cops on my tail, the hallway was empty. The door to our room hung open. Harper was inside, sitting on the bed, shaking but unharmed. Miso hissed from the corner. He was here, she said. He knocked. Said he had a delivery for you. My legs nearly gave out. You didn't open. No. But he slipped this under the door. She handed me a folded piece of paper. Same handwriting. She doesn't belong here. But this time, below it you do? If you've never watched your spouse tremble while holding a note written by the guy who's been camping in your attic rent-free, let me tell you, it kills romance fast. Harper sat on the edge of the hotel bed, clutching the paper like it might explode. I stood near the door, pretending to breathe normally while my brain sprinted laps around reality. The words burned in my mind. She doesn't belong here. You do. For a full minute, we just stared at each other. The silence wasn't awkward, it was radioactive. Finally, Harper whispered. He was here, Evan. He knew where to find us. Technically, I said, we left a forwarding address with the cat's Instagram, so maybe. Evan. One word. Sharp enough to cut oxygen. Okay. Not the time for jokes. Got it. She looked up, eyes glassy. What does that even mean? I don't belong here, you do? Is he saying I'm supposed to die? Or that you are? Option C, I said. He's just bad at grammar. She didn't smile. She hadn't smiled in days. She looked smaller now, like the fear had started carving her down to bone. That hurt more than anything. I'd failed at the one basic job of marriage, keeping her safe. Detective Monroe arrived 10 minutes later with 2 uniformed officers in tow. She took one look at Harper's face and softened just slightly. He left this note under the door? Harper nodded, voice trembling. He knocked first. Said it was a delivery. I didn't answer. Monroe examined the paper through a plastic sleeve. Same handwriting. He's escalating again, getting bolder. I snorted. Bolder? The guy's already collecting souvenirs and writing us fan mail. What's next, a group chat? Mr. Grant, she said, I need you to take this seriously. Detective, I passed seriously 3 nightmares ago. She rubbed her temples. We'll post an officer outside your room tonight. He can't have followed you without being seen, which means someone's helping him, or he's tracking your phones. Harper's head snapped up. Tracking us. It's possible, Monroe said. Did either of you connect to public Wi-Fi recently? Harper looked guilty. I used the hotel network to check email. Then change your passwords. All of them. We'll sweep the devices. I muttered. You hear that, honey? The ghost's a hacker now. Love that for us. The detective shot me a look that could kill Wi-Fi on its own. I'm also assigning you temporary protection detail. Officer Ramirez will be stationed outside. Don't leave this room unless we say so. When they left, Harper collapsed against me, shaking. I can't keep doing this. Every time I close my eyes, I see him standing there, smiling. I wrap my arms around her. We'll get through it, okay? One more night. Then we'll move, change numbers, names, species, if necessary. She laughed once, weak and bitter. You really think moving will stop him? I hesitated. It'll make it harder to deliver notes, at least. That night, the hotel room felt like a waiting room for insanity. The lights buzzed faintly. The TV played some reality show where rich people argued about yachts, and I envied them deeply. Harper lay curled up on the bed, wide-eyed, while I sat in the chair facing the door, baseball bat resting across my knees. Officer Ramirez was supposedly guarding the hallway, but I still checked the peephole every 5 minutes because paranoia is cardio. Around midnight, Harper stirred. "What if he's not after us?" she murmured. I blinked. "Come again. What if he's after the house? He keeps saying I don't belong there, but you do. Maybe it's not about us. It's about that place." I tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "Yeah, maybe the house picked me as its emotional support human. Maybe it's lonely." "I'm serious, Evan. You ever think it's pulling him back?" "Okay," I said slowly. "You're officially sleep-deprived. Houses don't have feelings. They have mortgages and mold." She sat up, voice rising. "Then why does he keep going there? Why can't he leave us alone?" "Because he's insane." I snapped, louder than I meant to. She flinched. I sighed immediately. "I'm sorry. My brain's fried." She turned away, hugging her knees. "He's never going to stop, is he?" I didn't answer. Because honestly, I didn't know. At 2:12 a.m., because apparently that's his preferred showtime, the hotel phone rang. We both jumped. I grabbed the receiver. "Hello." Static. Then a faint hum. A tune. Daisy Bell. I slammed the phone down so hard it nearly shattered. Harper's voice trembled. "Was that?" "Yeah." She started crying, silent tears sliding down her face. I wanted to say something comforting, but every word felt fake. Instead, I picked up my cell and called Monroe. Straight to voicemail. Perfect. I texted her. He called the hotel. Same song. Same time. Help. While we waited, Harper paced the room, muttering to herself. "He's playing with us. He knows exactly what he's doing. Then let's not give him what he wants. What if what he wants is us gone? Then congrats to him, because I was already planning to move to Mars." She spun toward me, eyes blazing. "You keep joking like this is funny." "It's not funny, Evan." "I know it's not funny." I shouted back. "If I stop joking, I'll start screaming." That shut us both up. At 3 a.m., there was a knock at the door, 2 sharp taps. Ramirez's voice followed. "It's me." I opened it, half expecting to see that pale smile instead of a badge. Ramirez looked tense. "Lobby clerk says someone left a package for you at the front desk." Harper's face went white. "Don't open it." I nodded. "Don't worry, I'm not suicidal." Ramirez said, "We're calling the bomb squad to be safe." 10 minutes later, a guy in full gear carried the small cardboard box into the parking lot like it was a live grenade. They x-rayed it. Not explosives, just a Polaroid camera and a single undeveloped photo taped to the top with a note, "Smile." I think that was the moment Harper broke. She started laughing. Not happy laughter, but the kind that sounds like something inside finally snapped. She sat on the curb under the flashing police lights, cackling until tears ran down her face. "Smile," she gasped. "He wants us to smile." "Harper," I said, crouching beside her. "Breathe, okay? It's just another mind game." She looked at me, still laughing but now shaking. "You don't get it, Evan. He's enjoying this. He's turning us into characters in his story." I didn't know what to say to that because she was right. They took the package for evidence. Monroe finally arrived at 4 a.m., looking like she hadn't slept since the Cold War. "He's taunting you," she said. "Everything he does is about control." "Yeah, well, he can control my bills if he wants," I muttered. She ignored me. We traced the hotel call. It came from a burner phone less than a mile away. "We're sweeping the area now." Harper whispered, "He's close." Monroe nodded grimly. "We'll find him." When dawn broke, Harper insisted on seeing the house one last time. "I need closure," she said. "I can't move forward until I face it." "Closure?" I said. "You want closure? Let's email him an eviction notice." But she was determined, and apparently I have the backbone of wet spaghetti when it comes to saying no. Monroe reluctantly agreed to escort us. The drive felt like returning to a crime scene, mostly because it was one. The house sat quiet, sun glinting off the windows. For a second, it looked almost beautiful. Peaceful even. Harper exhaled. "See? It's just a house." "Yeah," I said. "And sharks are just fish." Inside, the air was cool and stale. Dust motes drifted through the beams of morning light. Harper walked from room to room slowly, touching the walls like they were old friends. "I built memories here," she murmured. "Birthdays, anniversaries. Uninvited attic guy." She shot me a look, but there was no venom in it. Then she stopped in the hallway, staring upward. The attic hatch, still taped shut from the last investigation. That's where he watched us. Please don't, I said, but she was already reaching for the cord. Monroe grabbed her wrist gently. Mrs. Grant, let's not. Harper shook her head. I need to see. She pulled the cord before either of us could stop her. The ladder unfolded with a groan. Dust rained down. The smell hit first, sour, stale, wrong. Monroe went up first, gun drawn. I followed halfway because apparently I never learn. At the top, she froze. Oh my God. What? Come up slowly. I climbed 2 rungs and saw it. A crude mural on the attic wall, drawn in charcoal. A family. Me, Harper, the cat. But the figure of Harper was crossed out violently, black streaks covering her face. Above it, written in big letters, SHE doesn't belong here. You stay. Harper covered her mouth, sobbing. Why me? Monroe radioed for forensics again, but I barely heard her. Something about that last word, stay, hit me differently this time. It wasn't a command to me. It was a promise from him. We left while the cops combed the attic again. In the car, Harper was silent, staring straight ahead. Finally, she whispered, he's not after me anymore. What? He wants you, Evan. The notes, the drawings, they're all about you staying. That's comforting, I said weakly. Glad to be included. She turned toward me, eyes hollow. I can't do this. I can't sleep, can't breathe. Every sound feels like him. I know. I'm going to my sister's in Denver. Just for a while. My chest tightened. You're leaving? She nodded. Until he's caught. You need to stay with the police. I can't, her voice broke. I can't watch you become part of this anymore. I wanted to argue, but what could I say? She was right. I dragged her through hell. We said goodbye in the parking lot. She hugged me tight, then pulled away, wiping her eyes. Please don't go back there. I lied and said I wouldn't. As her car disappeared down the street, I stood alone beside the house, listening to the wind whisper through the trees. For a moment, it almost sounded like humming. Daisy Bell. I looked up at the attic window. A shadow moved behind it, tall, thin, patient. And for the first time, I realized maybe the house wasn't haunted by him. Maybe it was haunted by me. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who needed police escort just to sell his house. But here we were. Me, Detective Monroe, 2 uniformed officers, and a realtor who looked like she regretted her entire career. The for sale sign stood in the yard like a gravestone. Harper was gone, staying with her sister in Denver, and the house that once smelled like pancakes and chaos now just smelled like Lysol and trauma. Technically, we didn't need to come back. The paperwork was handled electronically. But Monroe wanted one more sweep before we handed over the keys. Closure, she said, which was ironic, because nothing about this nightmare had closed, except maybe my trust issues. I walked up the driveway feeling like I was approaching an ex's house to pick up the last box of memories. The grass was overgrown, the blinds drawn tight. My reflection in the window looked older, tired, like I'd aged 10 years since Bright Spark cleaning day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd hired someone to make my life easier, and instead, I'd unlocked a true crime documentary. The buyer was some startup guy named Trevor, 30-something, beard, Tesla, and the kind of confidence that comes from never reading a horror story past chapter 1. He'd seen the police cars and asked, is this, like, a neighborhood patrol thing? I almost said yeah, they just really love open houses. Instead, Monroe stepped in. Routine safety check before closing. Trevor grinned. Cool. I'm all about security. Gonna put smart locks and facial recognition on every door. I laughed darkly. Sure, maybe it'll recognize the guy who used to live in the attic. He blinked. Wait, what? Nothing, I said quickly. Congrats on your new home. As he went to inspect the backyard, Monroe gave me that don't antagonize the buyer look. You didn't tell him? She asked under her breath. What was I supposed to say? Welcome to your dream home. Slight chance of attic goblin. He'll find out when the walls start humming. We went inside for the final walkthrough. The house felt different, quieter, emptier, but not peaceful. More like a stage after the show's over. Dust covered the floors where furniture used to sit. The security cameras I'd installed still blinked, loyal as ever, even though I hadn't checked them in weeks. Monroe led the way, clipboard in hand. No signs of recent entry, she said. No footprints, no food, no disturbance in the attic. Good, I said. Let's keep it that way. Still, Part of me couldn't resist climbing those stairs one last time. I paused at the attic ladder. You sure? Monroe asked. No, I said, and pulled the cord anyway. The ladder creaked open, and dust fell like old snow. The beam of my flashlight swept across the space, empty. No blankets, no notebooks, no creepy murals. Just bare insulation and silence. And yet something was off. The corner where the mural had been scrubbed clean looked darker than the rest. I knelt down, ran my hand across the wood, and felt a faint groove. Carved letters. Fresh. Still here. I froze. My throat went dry. Monroe. She climbed up beside me, saw it, and cursed under her breath. Fresh carving. Within the week. So what? He came back to tag his work like Banksy. Or to say goodbye. We left it there. She had her team photograph it, then ordered me to stay away from the property until the new owner moved in. Fine by me. I'd rather share a one-bedroom with a raccoon than spend another night under that roof. Outside, Trevor was chatting with one of the officers, completely unaware of the still here upstairs. I wondered if that was fair. Probably not. But if I told him, he'd back out. The sale would fall through, and I'd still be tethered to this house like a cursed ex. So I kept quiet. Monroe handed me a copy of the report. He hasn't been seen since the hotel incident, she said. We think he left town. Or he's still watching. She sighed. Don't feed the paranoia, Grant. Go live your life. Start over. Sure, I said. If I can find a house that doesn't come with tenants I didn't invite. She actually smiled, just a little. You'll be fine. I wanted to believe her. Moving day was anticlimactic. I packed what little we hadn't already abandoned, loaded it into a rental truck, and watched the house disappear in the rearview mirror. Harper texted from Denver, please don't look back. So naturally I did. From the distance, the place looked innocent again, like it was pretending. And maybe it was. Maybe that was the trick all along. A week later, Monroe called. I was sitting on my sister's couch, eating cereal from the box, and trying to pretend life was normal. We got an update, she said. Owen Keller's been found. I nearly dropped the spoon. Found as in arrested? As in alive, yes. We located him in an abandoned facility 20 miles north of your neighborhood. I stood. Did he say anything? Her pause told me everything before she spoke. Just one thing. He kept repeating it. Let me guess, I said. She doesn't belong here. She exhaled. No. This time he said, he stayed. Over and over. He stayed. What is that even? I started, then stopped. Because I knew. I'd stayed. I'd come back. Again and again. I'd fed the obsession by trying to understand it. Detective, I said carefully. Is he still in custody? Yes, under psychiatric observation. Good. Keep him there. She hesitated. There's one more thing. He had something with him when we found him. My stomach clenched. Please don't say my name was on it. Close, she said. It was your old security camera. The one labeled Steve. After the call, I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the wall. The thought of him walking out of that attic carrying my camera like a trophy made my skin crawl. But there was a twisted logic to it. Steve had watched everything. Every night. Every movement. And maybe Owen had been watching me watching him. It wasn't about Harper anymore. It never was. It was about control. Power. The kind of sick fascination that makes someone crawl into your ceiling just to be part of your story. I called Harper later that night. She sounded calmer, lighter. They found him, she asked. Yeah. It's over. She exhaled, shaky but relieved. Good. Maybe now we can finally move on. Yeah, I said. Maybe. We talked about visiting soon. Maybe starting fresh somewhere far away. She suggested California. I suggested Mars. She laughed, for real this time. And for a second, I felt something close to peace. But peace didn't last. It never does. 3 days later, my phone buzzed at 2:13 a.m. Motion detected. My heart stuttered. I opened the app automatically, even though I'd deleted the system after moving. But there it was, a live feed. The familiar hallway of my old house. The new owner, Trevor, must have kept my setup running. I should have ignored it. Instead, I watched. The camera blinked to life, grainy night vision showing the hallway. The attic hatch creaked open, and a figure climbed down. Tall, pale, not Owen. Me. At least, that's what it looked like. My face. My clothes. Moving slow, mechanical. He walked to the bedroom door, turned, stared right into the camera. Then the feed cut to static. I sat frozen, phone shaking in my hand. It wasn't possible. A glitch, maybe. Some old recording looping. Except the timestamp read live. I called Monroe immediately. You need to check the house again. She sounded groggy. What is it this time? The cameras are back on. Someone's there. Someone who looks like me. Silence. Then, carefully, Mr. Grant, those cameras were logged into an offline system. No network access. They can't transmit. I blinked. Then how? Delete the app, she said firmly. Go back to sleep. I didn't. I sat there until dawn, watching the phone screen even though it was black. Part of me wanted to believe it really was over. The other part couldn't shake the feeling that the house had kept something, some echo, some memory, that looked like me because I'd left a piece of myself behind. 2 weeks later, I drove past the neighborhood again. Don't ask why. Curiosity is just stupidity with better branding. Trevor's car was in the driveway. Lights on. Normal suburban peace. Then I saw it. In the attic window, faintly lit by the street lamp, a silhouette. Not moving. Just watching. I told myself it was Trevor. I told myself I was done with this. But as I drove away, I swore I heard it. Faint, carried by the wind. Daisy Bell. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Because if the house wanted to play games, let it. It couldn't hurt me anymore. At least, that's what I told myself. Life's mostly normal now, or whatever passes for normal after your attic used to come with a bonus psychopath. Harper and I moved west. New house, new locks, new rule, no attics. If it needs stairs to reach, it doesn't belong to us. Some nights, though, when the wind crawls just right, I swear I hear that faint hum again. Daisy Bell, low and steady, like the world's creepiest lullaby. Harper says it's just my mind rewinding trauma. She's probably right. Probably. Last week, my phone glitched. Screen went black, then blinked once, showing a single line before fading out. For words. She doesn't belong here. I laughed, because what else can you do? Fear's a parasite. It only wins when you feed it. So I whispered into the dark, voice steady. Buddy, if you're still hanging around, rent's due. Venmo preferred. The house creaked. Quiet. Then, faintly, the sound of something closing upstairs, except we don't have an upstairs. I rolled my eyes, grabbed my bat, and muttered, fine. Round 2 then. Because if the whisper stayed, so did I. During our family vacation, my 12-year-old daughter collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. My wife's mother and my sister posted, finally having peace without the pathetic drama queen. I didn't shout. I took action. When they returned home, they found this on their kitchen table and started screaming. Look, I'm not saying I had a premonition or anything, but the moment my mother-in-law Evelyn suggested a family bonding trip, I should have faked a work emergency. Maybe appendicitis. Hell, I would have taken a mild case of food poisoning over what actually went down at Clearwater Beach. But no, I'm an idiot who believes in second chances and the transformative power of oceanfront property. So there I was, loading up our Toyota Highlander like we were about to film a Cialis commercial. You know, the ones where everyone's laughing for no reason and the dad looks like he's never experienced a single moment of stress in his entire life. Spoiler alert, that wasn't going to be me. The crew for this disaster in waiting included my wife Harper, who's genuinely the only reason I hadn't already moved to a cabin in Montana, our 12-year-old daughter Lily, who's basically the human embodiment of sunshine and the only person in my life who thinks my jokes are funny, Evelyn, aka my mother-in-law and self-appointed goddess of passive aggression, who once told me my meatloaf had character. Translation, it sucked, and my sister Nora, who I'm convinced peaked in high school, and has been coasting on her homecoming queen energy ever since. Nora's the type of person who shows up to help you move, but spends the entire time on her phone coordinating, while you're hauling a couch down 3 flights of stairs. She's basically human Wi-Fi, completely useless when you actually need her, but somehow always connected to everyone else's drama. The drive down to Clearwater should have been my first clue. Evelyn spent 2 hours critiquing Harper's parenting choices from the back seat, because apparently, letting Lily have an iPad on a road trip was going to turn her into a delinquent. Nora was documenting every mile on Instagram with captions like, beach vibes incoming, and family time hits different, which is rich considering she'd spent the last family gathering in the bathroom doing a full photo shoot for her 73 followers. I just drove, smiled, nodded, did that thing where you dissociate just enough that you're technically present but your soul is somewhere in the Bahamas drinking something with an umbrella in it. We got to the rental. One of those places that looks amazing online, but in person smells faintly like old carpet and broken dreams. And immediately, the complaint started. The AC was too cold. The beds were too firm. The view wasn't centered properly, as if I'd personally installed the windows at a Johnny angle just to spite everyone. I unpacked, cracked open a beer, and told myself, 3 days. You can survive 3 days. Day 2 was when everything went sideways. Picture this. It's about 2 in the afternoon, and the sun's doing that thing where it's aggressively Florida. Like, you're not just hot, you're being personally victimized by UV rays. I'd volunteered for grill duty because A, I actually enjoy grilling, and B, it gave me a legitimate excuse to stand away from the conversation happening under the beach umbrella, where Evelyn was explaining to Harper why her generation doesn't understand sacrifice, while Nora nodded along like a dashboard bobblehead. I was in my element. Burgers sizzling, hot dogs getting those perfect char marks, feeling like the dad from every cookout stock photo ever created. Lily was playing in the shallow water with some kids she'd befriended approximately 8 minutes after we'd arrived. Because that's what kids do, they just make friends like it's nothing, while adults need 3 mutual connections and a background check before we'll agree to coffee. Then I heard Harper scream. Not like a spider in the bathroom scream. This was different. This was the sound that makes every parent's DNA activate at once. That primal terror that bypasses your brain and goes straight to your legs. I dropped the spatula, sorry, burgers, and ran. Lily was on the sand. Just down. Motionless. Her new friends were standing around her looking confused and scared, and Harper was already on her knees, checking for a pulse. Doing that thing where you try to stay calm, but your hands are shaking so bad you can barely function. Call 911. Harper was yelling, and I was already fumbling for my phone, my fingers suddenly too big for the buttons, my brain moving through that weird slow-motion panic, where everything feels both too fast and not fast enough. Evelyn and Nora came running over. Well, Evelyn power-walked, because God forbid she break a sweat, and started asking questions that nobody had answers to. What happened? Did she hit her head? Was she eating something? As if an interrogation was going to magically fix the situation. The ambulance arrived in what felt like 17 years, but was probably closer to 8 minutes. They loaded Lily up, and I rode with her while Harper followed in the car. I held my daughter's hand the entire way, watching the paramedics work, listening to their calm, professional voices discussing vitals and stats like they weren't talking about my entire world lying unconscious on a gurney. At the hospital, they whisked her away for tests, and I was left in a waiting room that smelled like antiseptic and desperation, with those awful fluorescent lights that make everyone look like extras in a zombie movie. Harper was crying quietly, blaming herself for not noticing something was wrong sooner, and I was doing that dad thing where you try to be strong and reassuring while internally screaming into the void. Evelyn and Nora had followed us to the hospital, and after about 20 minutes of sitting in uncomfortable plastic chairs, Evelyn announced they were going to grab some food, because apparently, stress makes her hungry. Nora immediately agreed, and they left. I barely registered their departure. I was too busy pacing, making deals with the universe, promising to be a better person, a better dad, a better everything if Lily would just be okay. About 10 minutes after they left, my phone buzzed. A Facebook notification. Normally, I'd ignore it. I barely use social media anyway, but something made me look. It was a post from Evelyn's account. A photo of her and Nora, sitting at some beachside bar, margaritas in hand, both grinning like they'd just won the lottery. The caption read, "Finally having peace without the pathetic drama queen." I stared at that screen for a solid 30 seconds, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. My daughter was in a hospital. My wife was falling apart. And these two were celebrating, posting about peace, while we were living through every parent's nightmare. I didn't shout, didn't throw my phone, didn't storm out to confront them. I just looked at Harper, who was staring at her own phone with tears streaming down her face, having obviously seen the same post. And in that moment, standing in that sterile hospital hallway with terrible lighting and worse coffee, I made a decision. A calm, calculated, absolutely resolute decision. I thought, perfect. Let them enjoy their peace while they still can. Because if there's one thing people should know about me, it's this. I don't get mad. I get methodical. and they'd just given me all the motivation I needed. You know that feeling when you're waiting for news about your kid and every second feels like you're being slowly digested by time itself? Yeah, that's where I was. Pacing that hospital hallway like I was training for a marathon nobody signed up for, drinking coffee that tasted like it had been brewed sometime during the Bush administration, and I'm not even sure which Bush. Harper was sitting in one of those chairs that are specifically designed to make you uncomfortable, probably so you can't relax enough to forget why you're there in the first place. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she kept refreshing her phone, alternating between checking for updates from the doctors and staring at that goddamn margarita post like it was going to suddenly make sense if she looked at it enough times. 2 hours felt like 2 decades, but finally, a doctor came out. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 30, with that specific kind of calm competence that either means everything's fine or he's really good at delivering bad news. My heart was doing that thing where it's both racing and stopping at the same time, which I'm pretty sure isn't medically possible, but there we were. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, he said, and I swear I aged another 10 years in the half-second before he smiled. Lily's awake. She's going to be just fine. I'm not a religious man. I describe myself as spiritual, but mostly cynical. But in that moment, I thanked every deity I'd ever heard of. Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Zeus, that flying spaghetti monster people joke about, every single one of them got a mental shout-out from me. Hell, I probably thanked some gods that don't even exist. I was covering all my bases. Harper burst into tears, the good kind this time, and grabbed my hand so hard I'm pretty sure she left permanent fingerprints. The doctor explained that Lily had severe dehydration combined with heat exhaustion. Nothing that some 4 fluids and rest couldn't fix, but scary as hell when you're 12 and your body just decides to shut down without warning. They let us go see her, and there she was, my baby girl, looking small in that hospital bed but awake, with color back in her cheeks and that spark in her eyes that made her Lily. She had an 4 in her arm and one of those hospital gowns that somehow makes everyone look like they're wearing a parachute, but she smiled when she saw us. "Hey, Dad," she said, her voice a little raspy. "Sorry for scaring you." I sat down next to her and had to work really hard not to completely lose it. "Kiddo, you can scare me anytime as long as you wake up after. That's the deal." She laughed, this weak little laugh that was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard, and Harper was fussing over her, adjusting her pillows and asking the nurses 17 questions about hydration and recovery and what we needed to do differently. I just sat there holding Lily's hand, watching her drift back to sleep, and felt this weird combination of overwhelming relief and absolute rage. Because my daughter was okay, thank God, but the fact that 2 people who were supposed to care about her had been more concerned with their margarita aesthetic than her well-being, that was a different story entirely. Harper must have read my mind. Or maybe I just have really terrible resting revenge face, because she leaned over and whispered, "I'm so sorry. About my mother. About Nora. That post was... I don't even have words." I looked at her, this woman I'd been married to for 14 years, who'd been caught between her family and me for way too long, and said, "Don't bother apologizing for them. I've got plans for dessert." She blinked at me, confused. "Dessert? The hospital cafeteria has Jell-O, I think." "Oh, Harper." Sweet, exhausted, stressed out Harper. She thought I was talking about actual dessert. She had no idea that I was planning a 7-course meal of consequences that would make Gordon Ramsay's insults look like compliments. "Sure," I said, patting her hand. "Jell-O sounds great." About an hour later, guess who showed up? If you said 2 people who should have been there the entire time, congratulations, you're more optimistic than me. Evelyn and Nora waltzed into that hospital room like they were making an entrance at a charity gala, all smiles and concerned expressions that looked about as genuine as a $3 bill. "Oh, thank goodness," Evelyn said, putting her hand to her chest in this dramatic gesture that would have gotten her laughed out of a community theater audition. "We were so worried." I watched her from my chair next to Lily's bed, saying nothing. Harper jumped up to hug her mother, because Harper's default setting is keep the peace, even when the peace deserves to be absolutely shattered. Nora came over and ruffled Lily's hair like she was a golden retriever. "Feeling better, kiddo? You gave us quite a scare." "You gave us a scare?" I thought. "You weren't even here. You were busy becoming a meme template with your stupid drinks and your stupider caption." But I still didn't say anything. just smiled, nodded, played the part of the relieved dad who was too grateful for good news to start conflicts. Then Evelyn. And I swear to God, this woman has a gift for saying the exact wrong thing at the exact wrong time. Looked at Lily sleeping peacefully and said, "Oh, good, she's alive. Oh, good, she's alive." Not, "Thank God she's okay." Not, "We were so worried about our granddaughter." Just this casual, almost inconvenienced acknowledgement of my daughter's survival, like she was commenting on the weather or the traffic. Have you ever had one of those out-of-body experiences where your consciousness just straight up leaves your physical form because it cannot deal with the reality it's currently experiencing? Where your brain goes, did she actually just say that? Did those words really come out of her mouth in that order? Am I having a stroke? Is this real life? Yeah, that. Harper's face went pale. Nora at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. And I just sat there, still smiling, still nodding, my brain running calculations faster than a NASA computer. They stayed for maybe 20 more minutes, making small talk that was about as comfortable as a porcupine massage, before Evelyn announced they were exhausted and needed to get back to the hotel to rest. Because apparently, drinking margaritas and posting on social media is really draining work. "You two should get some rest too," Evelyn said to Harper, completely ignoring me. "We'll see you in the morning." They left, and the room felt immediately lighter, like someone had opened a window and let out toxic gas. Harper looked at me. She didn't mean. "Yes, she did," I said calmly. "And it's fine." "It's not fine. You're right. It's not. But it will be." That night, the hospital let Lily stay for observation, and Harper insisted on sleeping in the chair next to her bed. I told them I'd head back to the hotel to grab some of Lily's things, her favorite stuffed animal, some comfortable clothes, her phone charger. But I didn't go to the hotel room. I went to the parking lot, sat in my car, and pulled out my phone. Then I started making calls. Calm calls. Systematic calls. Each one carefully planned. Each one a small piece of a larger puzzle that Evelyn and Nora wouldn't see coming until it was too late. My bank. My insurance company. My lawyer. My accountant. I sat there in that parking garage, under those harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look vaguely apocalyptic, and I smiled. The kind of smile that could freeze fire. The kind of smile that meant someone had pushed the wrong person way too far. They wanted peace. Fine. I was about to give them so much peace they'd be begging for chaos. The drive back from Clearwater Beach was about as comfortable as a root canal performed by a dentist with Parkinson's. We'd kept Lily in the hospital for one more night just to be safe, and now she was buckled in the back seat, headphones on, completely oblivious to the tension in the car that was so thick you could have cut it with a butter knife. Evelyn sat in the passenger seat humming gospel songs, because apparently, nothing says, "I'm a good person," quite like humming Amazing Grace after you've publicly called your son-in-law pathetic on social media while his daughter was in the hospital. The cognitive dissonance was truly spectacular. I'm talking Olympic-level mental gymnastics. Nora had her own car, a hand-me-down Nissan that I'd helped her buy 3 years ago when she was between opportunities, which is code for unemployed but too proud to admit it, and she was following behind us. Every time I checked the rearview mirror, I could see her singing along to whatever basic pop song was playing, probably planning her next Instagram story about family road trips and blessed moments. Harper was next to me in the passenger seat when we stopped for gas, because Evelyn had announced she needed to stretch her legs and went inside to buy some chips or Judgment, whichever was on sale. My wife looked exhausted, like she'd aged 5 years in 3 days, and she kept glancing at me with this expression that was half concern, half fear. "You're being really quiet," she said. "I'm driving," I replied, which was technically true but also completely missing the point. "No, I mean, you haven't said anything about the post. About what my mother said at the hospital. You're not even angry." I merged back onto the highway, keeping my eyes on the road. "Who says I'm not angry? You haven't yelled. Haven't confronted anyone. You're just driving." I smiled. Not a happy smile. More like the smile a shark gives a seal right before lunch. "Harper, honey, I learned a long time ago that yelling is for people who don't have plans. I have plans." She shifted in her seat, and I could feel her staring at me. "That's what scares me." "It shouldn't scare you," I said. "You're not the one who posted that margarita picture." The rest of the drive was filled with Evelyn's humming, the occasional sound of Lily laughing at something on her phone, which, Thank God, because hearing her laugh meant she was okay, and the endless scroll of white lines on asphalt that all looked the same after a while. We pulled into our driveway around 7 p.m., and the moment we got out of the car, you could feel everyone trying to act like the last 3 days hadn't happened. It was like watching bad actors in a community theater production of Normal Family, the musical. Evelyn immediately started complaining about the air conditioning. It's absolutely frigid in here. Are you trying to give everyone pneumonia? I was unloading suitcases and didn't even look up. It's set to 72, Evelyn. The same temperature it's been for the last 6 years. Well, it feels colder, she insisted, because God forbid she just exist in a space without having an opinion about it. Nora came in behind us, already scrolling through her phone, and had the audacity to say, "Hey, bro, what's the Wi-Fi password again? My phone forgot it." Bro. She called me bro. Like we were buddies. Like she hadn't just spent the worst day of my life taking selfies with alcoholic beverages. "It's the same password it's always been," I said, hauling Lily's suitcase upstairs. "Yeah, but like, what is it?" I stopped on the stairs and turned around. "Check the router. It's written on the side." She made this annoyed face like I'd just asked her to solve a differential equation. "Can't you just tell me?" "I could," I said, "but then you wouldn't learn anything." Harper shot me a look that said, "Please don't start," but I was already heading upstairs. I helped Lily get settled in her room, made sure she had water and her medications. The doctor had given us electrolyte supplements and strict instructions about staying hydrated, and kissed her forehead. "Dad?" she said as I was leaving. "Yeah, sweetheart. Are you mad at Grandma and Aunt Nora?" Kids, man. They see everything. They're like little emotional surveillance cameras that you can't turn off. I sat back down on her bed. "Why would you think that?" "Because you've been super quiet, and you only get quiet when you're really mad. Like that time the neighbor's dog kept pooping in our yard, and you didn't yell. You just did something." "I trained our sprinklers to turn on when the dog got near our lawn," I said. "That's called problem solving." "Yeah, but you were mad when you did it." I couldn't lie to her. I've never been able to lie to Lily. She's got this built-in BS detector that's more accurate than a polygraph. "I'm disappointed in their behavior," I said carefully. "But you don't need to worry about it. That's adult stuff." "The post was mean," she said quietly. "I saw it before Grandma deleted it. Mom showed me when I asked why everyone was being weird." My heart clenched. "Lily, it's okay, Dad. I know you're not pathetic. You're literally the best dad ever. You stayed with me the whole time in the hospital. Grandma and Aunt Nora weren't even there." I hugged her then, probably longer than she wanted, because she eventually squirmed and said, "Dad, you're crushing me." But I didn't care. This kid, this amazing, perceptive, wonderful kid who'd almost given me a heart attack 3 days ago was comforting me. "Get some rest," I told her, "and drink your water. Doctor's orders. And Dad's orders," she added with a grin. "Especially Dad's orders." I went back downstairs to find Evelyn sitting on our couch like she owned the place, remote in hand, flipping through channels and criticizing every show that appeared. "This is all garbage. Why do you pay for cable?" "We don't," I said. "That's streaming." "Well, it's still garbage." Nora had apparently figured out the Wi-Fi password, technological miracle of the century, and was now sprawled across our armchair, feet up on the ottoman, recording some kind of TikTok video where she was lip-syncing to a song about being unbothered. The irony was not lost on me. Harper was in the kitchen stress cooking, which is what she does when she can't control other aspects of her life. I could hear her aggressively chopping vegetables like they'd personally wronged her. I walked past all of them without a word, heading straight to my office, the one room in the house that was completely mine, with a lock on the door and a strict, no entry without permission policy that everyone respected because I'd made it clear early on that this was my space. I closed the door, locked it, and opened my laptop. Then I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd started in the hospital parking lot. See, while everyone else was sleeping or drinking or posting on social media, I'd been working, making lists, checking accounts, reviewing documents, getting all my ducks in a row, except these ducks were more like heat-seeking missiles. Everything, and I mean everything, was in my name. The house, mine. The utilities, mine. The car Evelyn drove, technically mine, gifted to her, but never properly transferred. The rental property Nora had been living in temporarily for 3 years, also mine. I'd spent the last decade being the provider, the responsible one, The guy who handled all the boring adult stuff while everyone else just enjoyed the benefits. And now? Now it was time for an audit. I started with the credit cards. The shared vacation card that had paid for those margaritas? Cancelled. Done. Finito. One phone call, and suddenly their peace was going to cost them out of pocket. Next, I called my bank. The household account, the one everyone had access to for groceries, gas, miscellaneous expenses, got frozen. Not closed, just frozen. If anyone wanted to make a purchase, they'd need my approval. My signature. My permission. Let's see how long the peace lasts when they can't buy their overpriced lattes. I spent the next 2 hours going through everything systematically, making changes, sending emails, documenting everything, because I'm not an idiot and I know that paper trails matter. By the time I was done, I'd essentially restructured our entire financial ecosystem, and nobody downstairs had any idea. I could hear them out there, living their lives, completely oblivious to the fact that their world was about to get significantly more complicated. Harper knocked on the door around 10 p.m. Dinner's ready. Are you coming out? I saved my documents, closed my laptop, and unlocked the door. Yeah, I'll be right there. She looked at me with those worried eyes again. What were you doing in there? I kissed her forehead. Just organizing some files. Boring work stuff. We had dinner. Harper's stress cooking had produced enough pasta to feed a small army, and everyone ate in silence, which was honestly the most peaceful meal we'd had in years. Evelyn went to bed early, complaining about being exhausted from the ordeal. Nora left shortly after, heading back to her rent-free apartment, completely unaware that her free ride was about to end. And me? I cleaned up the kitchen, made sure Lily was settled, and went to bed with a smile on my face. They wanted peace without the pathetic drama king? Perfect. I was about to give them so much peace they'd be drowning in it. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I prefer to think of it as slow-cooked. Low heat, long patience, and a result so tender it falls right off the bone. The thing about quiet revenge is that nobody sees it coming until they're already choking on it, and by then, it's way too late to spit it out. Monday morning started like any other day, except I was walking around the house with the kind of calm that comes from knowing exactly what you're doing while everyone else is stumbling around in the dark. I made coffee, the good stuff, not the garbage Evelyn bought that tasted like burnt regret, and sat at the kitchen table scrolling through my phone like I didn't have a care in the world. Evelyn came downstairs in her bathrobe, the expensive silk one that I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago, back when I still thought gift-giving might earn me some basic human decency. She poured herself coffee and wrinkled her nose. This tastes different. Did you change brands? Nope, I said, not looking up from my phone. Same brand as always. No, she said, which in Evelyn speak meant, I don't believe you. But I'm going to pretend I do so I can complain about it later to someone else. Harper was getting ready for work. She's a graphic designer for a marketing firm downtown. One of those jobs that sounds creative and fun until you realize it's actually just making endless revisions for clients who think Comic Sans is still acceptable. And she came into the kitchen looking stressed already, which was pretty much her default state these days. I'm taking Lily to her follow-up appointment at 11, I said. The pediatrician wants to check her hydration levels and make sure everything's normalized. Oh God, I should come with you, Harper said, immediately reaching for her phone to text her boss. Don't, I said. You've already missed 3 days of work because of the hospital. I've got this. You know I've got this. She looked at me with this mixture of gratitude and concern, like she wanted to argue, but also knew I was right. Are you sure, Harper? I successfully kept a human alive for 12 years. I think I can handle a doctor's appointment. You had help with that human, she said, but she was smiling, which was the first genuine smile I'd seen from her since before the vacation. Fine. We had help, but I'm pretty sure I pulled at least 40% of the weight. 60-40, she said. Sold. Evelyn was watching this exchange with her classic expression of disapproval, like we were speaking a language she didn't understand but was offended by anyway. You're really going to let him take her alone? Harper's smile dropped immediately. Mom, he's her father. I know that, I just meant. What did you mean, Evelyn? I asked, finally looking up from my phone. My voice was pleasant, cheerful even, but there was steel underneath it. Please, elaborate. I'm genuinely curious about what you think I might screw up. She did that thing where she clutched her pearls, not literal pearls, though she definitely owned some, and said, I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just saying that a mother's touch wasn't present during the actual emergency. I finished for her. But hey, those margaritas looked refreshing. The kitchen went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, heard the sound of Evelyn's blood pressure spiking. Harper closed her eyes like she was praying for divine intervention. Can we not do this right now? You're absolutely right, I said, standing up and putting my mug in the sink. We've got places to be, people to see, doctor's appointments to attend. I went upstairs to check on Lily, who was already dressed and reading a book on her bed. Kid's a bookworm, which I love because it means she inherited at least some of my good qualities and not just Harper's inability to parallel park. Ready to go, kiddo? Do I have to get more blood drawn? She asked, looking up from her book with concern. Probably just a finger prick to check your levels. Nothing major. She made a face. I hate needles. I know. But you know what we do after doctor's appointments where there are needles? Her face lit up. Ice cream. Ice cream, I confirmed. The good place, too. Not the chain restaurant nonsense. The local spot with the weird flavors. Yes. She jumped up and grabbed her backpack, because apparently, you can't go anywhere without a backpack when you're 12, even if it's just to the doctor's office. We left through the garage, and as I was backing out, I saw Evelyn standing at the kitchen window watching us leave. She had this expression on her face that I couldn't quite read, somewhere between confusion and concern, and I realized that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to sense that something had shifted. Good. The doctor's appointment went smoothly. Dr. Martinez, great guy, been our pediatrician since Lily was born, once told me he became a children's doctor because adults were too complicated. Checked Lily over, declared her hydration levels back to normal, and gave her a high five that she pretended was too childish for her, but secretly loved. Keep doing what you're doing, he told me as we were leaving. She's a healthy kid. Just make sure she's drinking plenty of water, especially in this heat. Will do, Doc. And hey, he added, lowering his voice so Lily couldn't hear from where she was checking out the fish tank in the waiting room. I saw that social media situation. My wife showed me. For what it's worth, you're handling it better than I would have. I smiled. Who says I'm handling it? He laughed. Fair enough. Good luck with whatever you're planning. We went to the ice cream place, this local spot called The Scoop that makes flavors like lavender honey and bourbon pecan, the kind of place that makes you feel sophisticated for eating ice cream at 11:30 in the morning. Lily got something called Birthday Cake Explosion that had more colors than a pride parade, and I got coffee ice cream because I'm boring and predictable and okay with both of those things. We sat outside at one of those little metal tables that are always slightly wobbly, and Lily was talking about school and her friends and some drama involving who was sitting with who at lunch, and I was only half listening because my phone buzzed. It was a text from Nora. Hey, my card got declined at Target. Can you check if there's an issue with the account? I looked at that message for a solid 10 seconds, watching Lily enthusiastically destroy her ice cream cone, and then I typed back. Which card? The vacation one. The Visa. Oh, that card. Yeah, I canceled it. 3 dots appeared immediately, indicating she was typing. Then they disappeared. Then they appeared again. This went on for about 30 seconds, the digital equivalent of sputtering in disbelief, before my phone actually rang. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hey, Nora, did you seriously cancel the card? She sounded breathless, like she'd just run a marathon. Except the marathon was realizing that actions have consequences. I did, I said pleasantly. Seemed like the responsible thing to do after someone used it to purchase alcoholic beverages while my daughter was in the hospital. It wasn't like that. Wasn't it? Because I've got the bank statement right here, and it clearly shows 2 margaritas at Jimmy's Beach Bar, charged at 2:47 p.m. on Saturday. You know, about an hour after Lily collapsed. But please, tell me what it was like. Silence on the other end. Here's the thing, Nora. I continued, my voice still friendly, still casual, like we were discussing the weather. That card was in my name. My account. My liability. And I've decided I don't want to be liable for drinks purchased during family medical emergencies anymore. Call me crazy. You're being ridiculous, she said, but her voice had lost its edge. She knew she didn't have a leg to stand on. Maybe, I agreed. But I'm ridiculous with good credit, so I'll survive. Good luck at Target. I hear they take cash. I hung up before she could respond, and honestly, It felt better than it probably should have. Lily was looking at me with wide eyes. Was that Aunt Nora? Yep. Is she mad? Probably. Good, Lily said, and went back to her ice cream. That afternoon, I made another call, this one to my bank manager, a guy named Dennis who I'd been working with for about 8 years and who owed me a favor after I'd helped him fix his website for free. Dennis was good people, the kind of guy who actually listened instead of just trying to upsell you on credit cards you didn't need. Dennis, my man, I said when he picked up, I need to make some changes to the household account. Sure thing. What are we looking at? I need to freeze it. Temporarily. Nothing coming out without my explicit approval. There was a pause. Everything okay? Family stuff, I said, which was both true and completely inadequate. Just need to have a little more control over things for a while. Say no more. I'll flag the account right now. You'll get a notification for any attempted transactions, and nothing processes without your sign-off. You're a saint, Dennis. I'm a banker, but I appreciate the sentiment. That evening, I took my time making dinner, homemade pizza from scratch, because Lily had requested it, and because there's something therapeutic about kneading dough when you're systematically dismantling people's financial comfort zones. Harper came home from work looking exhausted. Evelyn emerged from wherever she'd been hiding all day, and we all sat down to eat like a normal, functional family. Except we weren't normal, and we definitely weren't functional, and the timer on this little charade was rapidly ticking down to 0. This is delicious, Harper said, and she meant it, which made me feel good because at least I was still succeeding at something. It's a bit greasy, Evelyn said, because of course it was. My phone buzzed. Another text from Nora. The grocery store card isn't working either. What's going on? I took a bite of pizza, chewed slowly, and didn't respond. Let her wonder. Let them all wonder. Because the thing about quiet revenge, the really beautiful thing about it, is that they don't know what's happening until it's already happened. And by the time they figure it out, you're already 3 moves ahead, sitting at your kitchen table eating homemade pizza with your daughter, watching everything fall into place exactly as planned. Checkmate takes time, but God, is it worth the wait? You know what's funny about social media? And by funny, I mean absolutely terrifying in a Black Mirror kind of way. It's that people will believe literally anything you post, as long as you phrase it correctly. Give them the right amount of vulnerability, a touch of gratitude, and just enough context clues, and they'll connect the dots themselves. You don't even have to spell it out. They'll do it for you. Wednesday morning, I was drinking my coffee and scrolling through Facebook, which I normally avoid because it's basically just a retirement home for millennials and a place where your aunt shares minion memes, when I decided it was time to make my own post. Now, I'm not a social media guy. My profile picture is from 2019. I've got maybe 70 friends, half of whom I don't actually know. And my last post before this was a picture of a sandwich I made in 2023 that got 4 likes, 3 of which were probably accidents. So when I posted something new, people were going to notice. I'd taken a photo of Lily the day before, right after her doctor's appointment. She was sitting in the car, eating her ice cream, giving the camera a thumbs up with this huge smile on her face that just radiated, I'm alive and everything's okay. It was perfect, innocent, wholesome. The kind of photo that could melt a heart made of stone. I uploaded it to Facebook, and then I wrote the caption. I must have edited it 15 times, tweaking words, adjusting punctuation, making sure the tone was exactly right. Not too angry. That would make me look petty. Not too sad. That would make me look weak. Just the right amount of grateful with a tiny hint of something else, something that would make people think. The final version read, "Thank you to all the amazing nurses and doctors at Clearwater General who helped our daughter Lily recover from her medical emergency this past weekend. Special thanks to the medical staff who stayed by her side, while some family members were busy finding peace elsewhere. We're grateful she's home safe, healthy, and surrounded by people who actually showed up when it mattered. Hashtag blessed, hashtag family first, hashtag actually showing up." I read it one more time, hovering my finger over the post button like I was about to launch a nuclear missile. Because that's essentially what this was, a carefully targeted strike designed to cause maximum damage with minimal effort. Harper walked into the kitchen and saw me staring at my phone. "What are you doing?" "Just posting a picture of Lily." "That's nice," she said, pouring herself coffee. "Let me see." I showed her my phone, and I watched her face change as she read the caption. Her eyes got wider with each sentence, and by the time she finished, She looked like she'd just witnessed a car accident in slow motion. "You're not actually going to post that," she said. "Why not? It's all true. I am grateful to the nurses. Lily is home safe. And some family members were busy finding peace elsewhere. That's just facts. Those aren't just facts, and you know it. That's a targeted missile disguised as a gratitude post." I smiled. "Is it though? You didn't name anyone." "Exactly. I didn't name anyone. So if people draw their own conclusions, that's on them, not me." She set down her coffee cup and gave me that look, the one that said she was equal parts impressed and terrified. "You've really thought this through, haven't you?" "Harper, I've thought about nothing else for 3 days. My mother is going to lose her mind." "Good," I said, and then I pressed post. The thing about social media is that it moves fast. Like, frighteningly fast. Within 10 minutes, I had 20 likes. Within 30 minutes, I had 50 likes and a dozen comments. All variations of "so glad she's okay," and "praying for your family," and "those nurses are angels." But then someone, I think it was Harper's cousin Rachel, who's always been more observant than people give her credit for, commented, "Wait, weren't Evelyn and Nora with you guys on that trip?" And that's when things got interesting. Because suddenly, people started doing math. They started scrolling back through timelines. They started finding that margarita post that Evelyn had deleted, but that the internet never forgets because someone always screenshots everything. Within an hour, that screenshot was being shared in the comments section of my post with captions like, "This you," and found the piece they were talking about. I sat there watching it unfold like I was watching a nature documentary. And here we observe the internet in its natural habitat, tearing apart someone's reputation in real time. Fascinating. Harper was pacing around the kitchen. "This is going to cause a massive fight." "Probably. My mother is going to call me crying." "Definitely. And you're okay with that?" I looked up at her. "Harper, your mother called me pathetic while our daughter was in the hospital. Your sister, my sister, laughed about it and bought a second margarita. So yeah, I'm okay with them experiencing approximately 1/10 of the discomfort they caused us." She didn't have a response to that, because what could she say? I was right, and she knew it. By noon, Evelyn's friends were turning on her. These church ladies who'd known her for 20 years were suddenly commenting things like, "Very disappointed in this behavior," and "Our prayers are with that poor man and his daughter," and my personal favorite, Matthew 7 verse 1, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Nothing hits quite like getting Bible verses weaponized against you by your own congregation. Nora, being the genius she is, decided to go private on Instagram. Just straight up locked down her account, which is the digital equivalent of running away and hiding under your bed. Except going private after a scandal is basically admitting guilt, and everyone knows it. It's like pleading the fifth, legally allowed, but it makes you look suspicious as hell. Evelyn tried a different approach. She deactivated her Facebook entirely, which meant all her posts disappeared, including the margarita one. But see, that's the thing about the internet. It doesn't forget. People had screenshots. Multiple people. And they were sharing them like Pokemon cards. I was sitting at my desk in my office, supposedly working on a project for a client, but actually just refreshing my Facebook feed and watching the comments roll in when my phone rang. Unknown number, which I normally don't answer, but I was feeling adventurous. "Hello. How dare you?" It was Evelyn, and she sounded like she was vibrating with rage. "How dare you publicly humiliate me like this?" "I'm sorry, who is this?" I asked, because I'm petty and I was enjoying myself. "You know exactly who this is. That post, that horrible, vindictive post. Everyone thinks I'm a monster." "Did I mention you in the post?" "You didn't have to. Everyone knows what you were implying." "So you're admitting that when I talk about family members who were busy finding peace elsewhere, you immediately assume I'm talking about you?" "That's interesting. That's a really interesting admission, Evelyn." I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line, trying to formulate a response that wouldn't further incriminate her. "I want you to delete it," she finally said. "Delete that post right now." "No." "Excuse me." I said no. "It's my Facebook page. My photo of my daughter. My gratitude toward medical professionals who actually did their jobs. I'm not deleting anything. This is slander." "It's actually not, because I didn't name you, and everything I said was true. But hey, if you want to hire a lawyer and explain to them why you're suing someone for thanking hospital staff, be my guest. I'm sure that'll go great for you." She hung up on me, which was probably for the best, because I was about 3 seconds away from laughing directly into the phone. 20 minutes later, Nora texted me. Not called, texted, because confrontation over the phone requires actual courage. You're ruining our lives over one stupid post. Is this really necessary? I texted back. Was it necessary to post about finding peace while Lily was in the hospital? That was different. You're right. That was worse. We made a mistake. People make mistakes. And people face consequences for those mistakes. Welcome to adulting. It's not as fun as Instagram makes it look. She didn't respond after that, which was fine because I was done explaining basic human decency to someone who thought positive vibes only was a legitimate life philosophy. That evening at dinner, the atmosphere was different. Harper was quiet, but it wasn't the stressed-out quiet from before. It was more contemplative, like she was processing something. Lily was oblivious, talking about her day and some TikTok video her friend had sent her about a cat that could apparently predict earthquakes. "Dad," she said between bites of chicken. "Jessica's mom asked if you were the guy from that Facebook post that's going around." I nearly choked on my water. "What?" "Yeah, apparently it's been shared like 1,000 times. Jessica said her mom called Grandma, a prime example of what not to do in a crisis." Harper put her head in her hands. "What did you tell Jessica?" I asked. Lily shrugged. "I said, yeah, that's my dad. And he's actually really nice even though Grandma and Aunt Nora think he's dramatic." Then Jessica said her mom thinks you're a hero for standing up for yourself. "A hero seems excessive," I said, but I was smiling. "That's what I said. I told her you're just regular mad, not like superhero mad." "Thanks for the clarification, kiddo." After dinner, I checked the post one more time. Over 300 likes, 70+ comments, almost all of them supportive. A few people had even started sharing articles about toxic family dynamics and the importance of setting boundaries, which felt like overkill, but also kind of validating. Harper found me in the office later that night. "My mother called me 17 times today. Did you answer?" "On the 18th call. She wanted me to make you delete the post. And I told her I couldn't make you do anything, which is true. But also," she paused, biting her lip. "I told her maybe she should think about why that post bothered her so much. If she didn't do anything wrong, why is she so upset about people knowing what happened?" I stood up and hugged her, because that was probably the hardest thing she'd ever said to her mother, and I knew it. "I'm proud of you," I whispered into her hair. "I'm terrified," she whispered back. "That's how you know you're doing the right thing." That night, lying in bed, I checked my phone one last time. The post was still up, still getting likes, still spreading like wildfire through our extended social network. And somewhere out there, Evelyn and Nora were learning a valuable lesson. The internet never forgets, screenshots are forever, and you should never, ever underestimate the quiet guy who knows his way around social media. I fell asleep smiling, dreaming of margaritas I'd never have to buy. There's a certain kind of satisfaction that comes from realizing you've been holding all the cards the entire time and nobody else knew it. It's like playing poker with people who don't understand poker, except instead of chips, you're betting with cars and real estate. And instead of bluffing, you're just reading the actual rulebook that nobody else bothered to look at. Thursday morning, while the internet was still having a field day with Evelyn and Nora's greatest hits, I was sitting in my office doing something way more productive than watching comment sections explode. I was going through my filing cabinet. Now, I know what you're thinking. Filing cabinets are boring. They're the physical embodiment of adulting that nobody wants to do. But here's the thing about being organized and keeping records of everything. When the time comes to prove something or reclaim something or generally make someone's life complicated, you've got receipts. Literal receipts. I pulled out the file labeled Vehicle, Honda Accord 2022, and smiled. This was Evelyn's car, or at least, the car she'd been driving for the past 2 years like it belonged to her. I'd bought it for her birthday because Harper had begged me, saying her mother's old car was on its last legs, and it would be such a meaningful gift. So like an idiot who occasionally tries to buy his way into his mother-in-law's good graces, I dropped 35 grand on a Honda Accord with all the bells and whistles. Leather seats, sunroof, that fancy backup camera that beeps at you when you're about to hit something. The works. The title was in my name. The insurance was in my name. Evelyn's name wasn't on any documentation anywhere because she was supposed to transfer everything over within 60 days. But, shocker, she never did. Which meant legally, I owned that car. Completely. Totally. Without question. I called my insurance company first. Got connected to a representative named Tammy who sounded like she'd had about 6 cups of coffee and was ready to process paperwork at superhuman speeds. Hi, Tammy. I need to remove a vehicle from my policy. Sure thing. Which vehicle are we removing? The 2022 Honda Accord. Okay. And is there a reason for the removal? Selling it, totaling it, or just not using it anymore? Reclaiming it, actually. It's been in someone else's possession, but the title's in my name, and I'm taking it back. Oh, Tammy said, and I could hear the curiosity in her voice. Family situation? You could say that. Say no more. I've got 3 ex-husbands. I understand completely. Give me 2 minutes. God bless Tammy and her 3 ex-husbands. Within 5 minutes, the insurance was canceled on that car, which meant Evelyn was now driving around an uninsured vehicle, which is both illegal and incredibly stupid. But I'm a generous guy, so I sent her a text. FYI, insurance on the Accord has been canceled. You're driving uninsured. Thought you should know before you get pulled over. She called immediately. I let it ring. Then she texted, "You can't do this." I texted back, "Actually, I can. It's my car. Check the title. Harper gave me that car. Harper convinced me to buy you that car." Important distinction. The name on all the paperwork is mine. Always has been. This is theft. It's actually the opposite of theft. It's me taking back my own property. But I'm sure your lawyer would love to hear your version. She stopped responding after that, probably because she'd consulted Google and realized I was right. Or maybe she'd called an actual lawyer who'd told her she didn't have a case. Either way, the silence was golden. Next up, Nora and her rent-free paradise. See, about 3 years ago, Nora had hit what she called a rough patch, which was her way of saying she'd quit her job to pursue her influencer dreams and discovered that 17 followers and a ring light from Amazon don't actually pay rent. She'd asked if she could stay in one of my rental properties just for a couple months while she got back on her feet. Those couple months turned into 3 years. 3 years of no rent, no utilities, nothing. Just Nora living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, posting selfies and occasionally working part-time at a juice bar where she got paid in smoothies and exposure. The property was worth about $1,800 a month in rent, which meant over 3 years, she'd lived there for free to the tune of approximately $64,800. $64,000. That's a nice car. That's a down payment on a house. That's Lily's college fund getting significantly dented because I was trying to be a good brother. I pulled up the rental agreement, which was basically just a handwritten note that said temporary arrangement, no formal lease, and drafted a proper 30-day notice. I kept it professional, cordial even, because the best revenge is the kind that can't be argued with in court. Dear Nora, this letter serves as official notice that the temporary housing arrangement at 847 Maple Street, Unit 3B, will be terminated effective 30 days from the date of this notice. As there is no formal lease agreement in place, and this was always intended as a short-term solution, I am exercising my right as property owner to reclaim the unit. You have until November 26, 2025 to vacate the premises. All personal belongings must be removed by this date. The property should be returned in the same condition it was provided, normal wear and tear accepted. Thank you for your understanding. Best regards. My name. Then, because I'm petty and I earned it, I added a smiley face emoji at the very bottom. Just a little smiling face with smiling eyes sitting there like a cherry on top of a sundae made of consequences. I took a picture of the notice, printed out an official copy to mail via certified mail, because paper trails matter, and texted her the image. Her response came in about 30 seconds. You're joking, right? I checked my calendar. I only joke on weekends. This is Tuesday. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. There's no lease. This was temporary. Temporary expired about 2.5 years ago. I have nowhere to go. That's unfortunate. Might I suggest finding a place that accepts whatever currency you've been using for the past 3 years? Oh wait, that was my generosity. Guess you'll need to find actual money now. This is because of the Facebook post, isn't it? You're punishing me for one mistake. I sat there looking at that message for a solid minute, feeling my blood pressure rise slightly before forcing it back down. Nora, the Facebook post was the final straw. The free ride was already ridiculous. You're 32 years old. You've been living rent-free in my property for 3 years. Most people would have ended this after 3 months. I gave you 3 years. So no, this isn't punishment. This is me finally enforcing boundaries that should have existed a long time ago. Mom is going to hear about this. Mom doesn't pay your rent either, so I'm not sure how that's relevant. But please, do tell her. I'm sure she'll have some thoughts while she's figuring out her own car situation. I put my phone on silent after that because I had actual work to do. You know, the kind of work that pays for rental properties that apparently anyone can just live in indefinitely if they ask nicely enough. That evening, I decided to make pancakes for dinner. Not breakfast for dinner in that lazy, I don't feel like cooking a real meal way, but in the I'm celebrating and pancakes are festive way. I made them from scratch. None of that box mix garbage, with buttermilk and vanilla extract and a secret ingredient, cinnamon. That makes them taste like they came from a restaurant. Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table and looked up when she smelled the batter. Pancakes? On a Thursday? Why not? You feeling okay? All hydrated? Dad, it's been like a week. I'm fine. You can stop asking if I've had water every 30 minutes. Never, I said, flipping a pancake with probably too much flourish. That's my job. I'm going to ask if you've had water until you're 40. That's only 28 more years of harassment. Exactly. I've got endurance. Harper came home from work and stopped in the doorway, staring at the scene like she'd walked into an alternate dimension. Are those pancakes? Your observation skills are remarkable. For dinner. Is there a law against pancakes for dinner? Did I miss that legislation? She set down her bag and walked over, wrapping her arms around me from behind while I cooked. What's going on? I'm making pancakes. Sometimes a pancake is just a pancake. And sometimes a pancake is a celebration, she said quietly. What are we celebrating? The fact that our daughter is healthy, our family is eating together, and nobody is starting an argument about air conditioning temperature or why my meatloaf has character. She laughed, actually laughed, and it sounded like music. Fair enough. We sat down to eat, just the 3 of us, and it was the most peaceful dinner we'd had in months. Maybe years. There was no tension, no passive-aggressive comments about portion sizes or parenting choices. Just a family eating pancakes and talking about normal things like school projects and TV shows and whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Lily says yes. Harper says no. I'm Switzerland on the issue. Harper kept looking at me throughout dinner with this expression I couldn't quite read. It wasn't suspicion exactly. More like realization. Like she was seeing me clearly for the first time in a long time and understanding that the quiet guy who usually just went along to get along had a backbone made of steel that he'd just been choosing not to display. After dinner, after Lily went upstairs to video chat with her friends about whatever 12-year-olds video chat about, Harper and I were doing dishes, her washing, me drying, the most domestic scene imaginable, when she said, "You reclaimed the car." I did. And you're evicting Nora. I'm ending a temporary arrangement that became permanent without my consent. Same thing. Semantics. She handed me a plate. I didn't know you could be like this. Like what? Strategic. Methodical. Kind of scary, honestly. I dried the plate carefully. I've always been like this. You just never saw it because I never had a reason to use it. I spent 10 years being accommodating and flexible and letting things slide because I thought that's what you needed. But then your family called me pathetic while our daughter was in the hospital, and I realized, I'm done accommodating people who don't respect me. She turned off the water and looked at me, really looked at me. I spent so long trying to keep everyone happy that I forgot you needed someone in your corner too. You've always been in my corner. Not enough. Not visibly enough. I let my mother and your sister treat you like you were less than, and I told myself I was keeping the peace. But I wasn't. I was just avoiding conflict. Harper. No, let me finish. What you're doing, the post, the car, the apartment, it's not revenge. It's accountability. And I should have backed you up on this years ago. I pulled her into a hug right there in our kitchen, with soap suds still on her hands and dish water dripping onto the floor. Better late than never. Your pancakes were really good, she whispered. I know. And for the first time in a week, maybe longer, everything felt right. You ever spend time meticulously planning something and then get so excited about the execution that you can barely sleep? That was me on Friday night. I was like a kid on Christmas Eve, except instead of waiting for Santa, I was waiting to watch 2 grown adults discover that actions have consequences and consequences have paperwork. I'd spent the better part of Friday afternoon preparing what I can only describe as a care package from hell. Nothing illegal, nothing unethical, just cold, hard documentation presented in a way that would make a lawyer weep with joy at how thoroughly everything was covered. I went to Office Depot, because where else do you go when you need to print the physical manifestation of someone's mistakes, and bought one of those big brown manila envelopes. The heavy-duty kind that says, "This is official business," without needing to say anything at all. Then I printed everything on proper cardstock, not regular printer paper, because if you're going to serve someone a reality check, it should at least look professional. The contents of my little gift basket included a printed screenshot of the Margarita Post, complete with timestamp and geolocation data, showing they were at Jimmy's Beach Bar exactly 1.3 miles from the hospital where Lily was being treated. I'd even highlighted the caption in yellow, "Finally having peace without the pathetic drama queen," because sometimes you need visual aids. A copy of the 30-day eviction notice for Nora, signed, dated, and notarized because I'm nothing if not thorough. I'd included a helpful spreadsheet showing exactly how much free rent she'd received over 3 years, $64,800, just in case she wanted to reflect on her savings. The car repossession documentation for Evelyn, including copies of the title, in my name, the original purchase receipt, my credit card, and the insurance cancellation confirmation. I'd paperclipped a printout of Florida vehicle laws regarding ownership and operation of uninsured vehicles, with the relevant sections highlighted. And finally, a handwritten note on my personal stationery, because I'm petty but I have standards, that simply read, "Peace granted." Indefinitely. I arranged everything in the envelope with the care of someone assembling a bomb, which, in a metaphorical sense, I guess I was. Then I sealed it and wrote on the front in my neatest handwriting, "For the Queens of Peace." Saturday morning, Harper woke up to find me already dressed and drinking coffee with an expression that she later described as disturbingly cheerful. "What are you planning?" she asked, eyeing me suspiciously. "Me? I'm not planning anything. The planning is done. Now we're in the execution phase." That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. Evelyn and Nora had announced on Friday that they were going shopping Saturday morning, some big sale at the outlet mall about 40 minutes away. They'd invited Harper, who'd declined faster than a person swiping left on a dating app, claiming she had work stuff to catch up on, which was code for, "I don't want to be an accessory to whatever's about to happen." They left around 9 a.m., with Evelyn driving, well, attempting to drive, the Honda that was no longer insured and that I could legally reclaim at any moment. I watched from the kitchen window as they pulled out of the driveway, Nora in the passenger seat probably already planning her Instagram content for the day, completely oblivious to the fact that their lives were about to get significantly more complicated. I waited exactly 30 seconds after they left, then walked over to the kitchen table and placed the envelope right in the center. Not off to the side where it might be missed. Not under something else. Dead center, impossible to ignore, like a centerpiece at a dinner party except instead of flowers, it was documentation of their own behavior. Lily came downstairs and saw it immediately. "What's that?" "A gift." "For who?" "Grandma and Aunt Nora." She walked over and read the label, then looked at me with eyes that were way too knowing for a 12-year-old. "You're really doing this, huh?" "Doing what?" "I'm just leaving some important documents for them to review." "Dad, you wrote Queens of Peace on the envelope. That's not subtle." "Who said I was trying to be subtle?" She grinned, this huge, delighted grin that made her look like she'd just gotten away with something mischievous, and said, "Can I watch when they open it?" "Absolutely not. You have soccer practice at 11. Ah, come on. This is way better than soccer. Nice try, but you're not missing practice to watch adult drama unfold. That's not healthy. You're watching it unfold. I'm an adult. I'm allowed to make unhealthy choices. It's one of the perks of paying taxes." Harper drove Lily to soccer practice, and before she left, she stopped in front of the envelope and just stared at it for a solid 15 seconds. "This is really happening," she said. "Yep. You know there's no going back after this, right? This is nuclear." "Harper, they went nuclear when they posted that picture. I'm just returning fire with properly documented evidence." She kissed my cheek. "I'll have my phone on me. Text me when you know. When it happens." "Will do." After they left, I settled into the living room with my laptop, positioning myself so I had a clear view of both the front door and the kitchen table. I pulled up Netflix and started watching some documentary about people who climb mountains without ropes, because apparently, I enjoy watching other people make questionable life choices while I'm making my own. Around 1 p.m., I heard the car pull into the driveway. The doors slammed. Evelyn always slammed car doors like they'd personally offended her, and I could hear them talking as they came up the walkway. And I told her, "That dress makes you look desperate, not elegant," Evelyn was saying. "Mom, you can't just tell people that," Nora replied, but she was laughing. They came through the front door carrying shopping bags from stores I didn't recognize and couldn't afford, and I nodded at them from the couch without pausing my documentary. "Have a good time?" I asked pleasantly. "It was fine," Evelyn said in that tone that meant it actually wasn't fine, but she'd complain about it later to someone else. They headed toward the kitchen to set down their bags, and I turned up the volume on my documentary just slightly so I could pretend I was engrossed in it while actually listening intently to what was about to happen. There was silence for about 5 seconds. Then Nora's voice. "What's this?" More silence. I imagined them staring at the envelope, reading the label, trying to decide whether to open it or pretend they hadn't seen it. "Did he leave this?" Evelyn asked, her voice already taking on that sharp edge that meant she was getting defensive before she even knew what she was defending against. "Who else would write Queens of Peace?" Nora said. "Should we open it?" "Of course we should open it. It's probably just him being dramatic again." I heard the envelope being torn open. Evelyn had never been good at opening things carefully, and then rustling of papers. More silence. Longer this time. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air pressure changed and everyone's ears just popped simultaneously. Then, "What the?" That was Nora. Her voice had this quality to it that I can only describe as someone realizing they've been playing checkers while everyone else was playing chess. "He can't do this," Evelyn said, but her voice was shaking. He can't just." "There's a spreadsheet," Nora said, and she sounded like she was reading from a script in a horror movie. "Mom, there's a spreadsheet showing how much rent I haven't paid. It's like $60,000. $64,800. I called from the living room, not looking away from my documentary. Rounding errors matter. "You." Evelyn appeared in the doorway to the living room, clutching the papers like they were evidence at a murder trial, which I guess in a way they were. Her face was red, not the cute, embarrassed red, more like the "my blood pressure just hit the stratosphere" red. "This is ridiculous. You can't repossess my car." "It's not your car," I said calmly, finally pausing the documentary because this was too good to miss. "It's my car. Always has been. Check the title." "Oh wait, you did. It's in the envelope. Harper gave me that car. Harper suggested I buy you that car. I bought it. My name, my money, my car. You were supposed to transfer everything over within 60 days. That was 2 years ago. So technically, you've been driving my car without permission for approximately 23 months. Nora came into the living room holding the eviction notice like it was contaminated. "You're kicking me out? Where am I supposed to go?" "That's a great question. Maybe you should have asked yourself that 3 years ago when you decided temporary meant indefinite. I'm your sister, and you called me a pathetic drama queen on Facebook while my daughter was in the hospital. Being related doesn't give you a free pass to treat me like garbage and live rent-free in my property. This is about that stupid post?" Evelyn's voice had reached that pitch that only dogs and guilty people can hear. "You're destroying our lives over a social media post?" I stood up then, slowly, and I could feel something shift in the room. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't even particularly angry anymore. I was just done. "No, Evelyn. I'm setting boundaries that should have existed years ago. The post was just the moment I realized I've been enabling your behavior by being too nice, too accommodating, too willing to let things slide, because I thought that's what family did. But family doesn't post margarita pictures while a 12-year-old is in the hospital. Family doesn't call each other pathetic. And family sure as hell doesn't take advantage of someone's generosity for years and then act shocked when that generosity runs out. This is cruel, she said, and I swear I could see tears forming. Real or manufactured, I couldn't tell and didn't particularly care. No, cruel was your behavior last weekend. This is accountability. There's a difference. Nora threw the eviction notice onto the coffee table. I can't believe you're doing this. Really? You can't believe it? After everything, you're genuinely surprised that actions have consequences? They both just stood there, looking at me like I'd grown a second head, and I realized that in all the years they'd known me, they'd never actually seen me stand up for myself. They'd seen me accommodate, compromise, bend over backward to keep the peace. But they'd never seen me draw a line and defend it. Harper had been right. This was scary, for them, anyway. For me, it felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for a decade. The note says, "Peace granted." Indefinitely. Evelyn read from the paper, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled. "It means you wanted peace without the pathetic drama king. So I'm granting your wish. You can have all the peace you want, away from me, my family, my property, and my resources. Enjoy it." From somewhere outside, I heard Harper's car pull into the driveway. She must have gotten my text. I'd sent it the moment I heard the envelope being opened. Bomb detonated. "Come home." The front door opened, and Harper walked in with Lily, who took one look at the scene and whispered, "Oh man, I missed it." Language, Harper said automatically, but she was looking at her mother and sister with an expression I'd never seen before. Not quite pity, not quite anger. Something in between. "Harper." Evelyn turned to her daughter like she was a life raft in a stormy sea. "Talk to him. Make him stop this insanity." Harper set down her purse very carefully, walked past her mother and sister without acknowledging them, came straight to me, and kissed me. Right there, in front of everyone. Then she turned around and said, "No." Just that one word. Simple. Final. Devastating. "No." Evelyn repeated, like she didn't understand the language. "No, I won't talk to him. Because he's right. And I should have said something years ago." The silence that followed was so profound you could have heard a pin drop in the next county. You know what's wild about small towns? Well, suburbs, technically, but they function like small towns when it comes to gossip. Information spreads faster than a grease fire in a kitchen full of paper towels. One minute you're having a private confrontation in your living room, and the next minute, the entire neighborhood knows that Evelyn Patterson got served a reality check with a side of documentation. I'm not sure who leaked it first. Maybe it was Harper's cousin Rachel, who has a PhD in other people's business and treats social drama like it's her dissertation. Maybe it was someone from Evelyn's church who'd already seen the Margarita post and was just waiting for the next installment of this particular train wreck. Or maybe, and this is my personal theory, the universe just decided that Evelyn and Nora's downfall needed a bigger audience. By Sunday morning, my phone was blowing up with texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. My college roommate sent me a message that just said BRO, followed by 17 flame emojis. My Aunt Grace, the only sane relative on my side of the family, called me laughing so hard she could barely breathe and said, "I always knew you had it in you. I just didn't know you'd be so elegant about it." Elegant? I said. I literally wrote Queens of Peace on an envelope. Exactly. Elegant savagery. It's an art form. But the real entertainment came from watching Evelyn try to control the narrative. See, she's one of those people who's deeply invested in her reputation. She's on 3 church committees, volunteers at the community center, and has spent years cultivating this image of herself as a pillar of the community. You know, the kind of person who brings homemade casseroles to funerals and always knows exactly which Bible verse to quote for maximum impact. So when word got out about what had actually happened at Clearwater Beach, and then what had happened with the envelope, her carefully constructed image started cracking like a windshield after a rock hit. Sunday morning, she went to church. Because of course she did. Evelyn would go to church during the apocalypse, probably to complain about the quality of the horsemen. Harper had warned me that her mother was planning to set the record straight with their congregation, which I knew was code for spin this story so hard it could generate renewable energy. I didn't go to church. I'm more of a spiritual but sleeping in on Sundays kind of guy. But Harper went, mostly because she wanted to witness whatever was about to happen. She took Lily with her, told me to stay home and avoid adding fuel to the fire, which I interpreted as please don't show up and make this worse by existing. They got back around noon, and Harper walked in with this expression that I can only describe as, I just watched a car crash in slow motion and couldn't look away. Well, I asked from the kitchen, where I was making grilled cheese sandwiches because it was Sunday and I'd earned simple pleasures. Your mother-in-law just gave a performance that would make Meryl Streep jealous, Harper said, dropping her purse on the counter. She told half the congregation that you're a cold, calculating man who humiliated his family over a simple misunderstanding. A simple misunderstanding? That's what we're calling it now. Oh, it gets better. She said you were punishing her for one tiny mistake, and that she's the real victim here because you've stolen her car and made her granddaughter watch family members fight. I flipped a grilled cheese. That's impressive. She managed to make herself the victim, blame me, and weaponize Lily all in one statement. That's efficiency. Dad, it was wild. Lily chimed in, grabbing a juice box from the fridge. Mrs. Henderson, you know, the pastor's wife? She literally stood up in the middle of Grandma's speech. Oh no, I said, grinning. What did Mrs. Henderson say? Harper started laughing, the kind of laugh that comes from witnessing something so perfectly timed it almost seems scripted. She said, and I quote, Evelyn, I saw the margarita post. Several of us did. Before you deleted it. So maybe we should talk about what actually happened instead of this revised version you're presenting. I stopped flipping grilled cheese and just stared. Mrs. Henderson said that? To Evelyn? In church. In front of like 80 people, Lily added gleefully. Grandma's face turned purple. Like, actually purple. I didn't know faces could do that. What happened then? Harper was still laughing. Your mother-in-law tried to backtrack, said the post was taken out of context, that she and Nora were just trying to stay positive during a difficult time. Then Mrs. Henderson, God bless this woman. I'm sending her a Christmas card, said positive. You captioned it about finding peace without a pathetic drama queen while your son-in-law's daughter was in the hospital. That's not positivity, Evelyn. That's cruelty. I love Mrs. Henderson, I said. I'm adding her to my will. She's not done, Harper said, wiping tears from her eyes. Then she said that maybe instead of asking the congregation for sympathy, your mother should be asking for forgiveness for treating her family poorly. Then she sat down. Just sat down like she delivered a closing argument at trial. Please tell me someone recorded this. 3 people were definitely holding up their phones. I served grilled cheese sandwiches to my wife and daughter, feeling a warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with the hot stove. So I'm guessing Evelyn didn't stick around for the post-service coffee hour? She left immediately, Harper said. Didn't even wait for the final hymn. Just grabbed her purse and power walked out of there like the building was on fire. Where's she now? No idea. She's not answering my calls. My phone buzzed then, a text from Nora. I'd been getting texts from her pretty regularly since Saturday afternoon, each one progressively more desperate and angry, cycling through the 5 stages of grief except instead of acceptance at the end, she just circled back to anger. This one read, You ruined my stability. I hope you're happy. I showed it to Harper, who rolled her eyes so hard I'm surprised she didn't strain something. I texted back, You ruined my vacation. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again, then disappeared. She was trying to formulate a response that would somehow make her the victim, and I was enjoying watching her struggle with it in real time. Finally, she sent, That's not the same thing. You're right, I replied. A vacation lasts a week. Stability is supposed to last longer. So technically, you had it better than me. You got 3 years of free rent. I got 3 days of family time, and you spent it drinking margaritas while my kid was in the hospital. Math isn't mateing in your favor here, sis. She didn't respond after that. Just went radio silent, which was fine because I was getting tired of explaining basic human decency to someone who thought influencer was a legitimate career path with 0 followers and even less talent. The following week, Harper suggested we go to therapy. Not couples therapy. We were actually doing fine, better than fine really. She wanted to go to therapy to deal with what she called her family guilt complex, which is apparently a real thing where you feel guilty for setting boundaries with toxic family members because you've been conditioned to prioritize their feelings over your own well-being. I agreed immediately because A, therapy is healthy and everyone should go, and B, I wanted a professional third party to confirm that I wasn't actually insane for doing what I did. We found a therapist named Dr. Chun, a woman in her 50s who had this incredibly calming presence and an office that smelled like lavender and looked like someone's incredibly organized grandmother decorated it. Lots of plants, soft lighting, one of those white noise machines that makes it feel like you're inside a peaceful bubble. Our first session, Harper spent about 40 minutes explaining the situation, the vacation, the hospital, the post, the envelope, all of it, while Dr. Chin nodded and took notes in a leather journal that probably cost more than my phone. When Harper finished, Dr. Chin looked at me and asked, How do you feel about your actions? Honestly, pretty good. Is that bad? She smiled. Why would it be bad? Because I essentially upended two people's lives in the span of a weekend. Society generally frowns on that. Did you do anything illegal? No. Did you do anything that wasn't already within your rights as a property owner and financial provider? No. Then you didn't upend their lives. You enforced boundaries. There's a significant difference. Harper was sitting next to me on the couch. Why do therapy offices always have couches? Is that a requirement? And she said quietly, I spent years letting my family dictate everything. Where we went for holidays, how we raised Lily, even little things like what we ate at family dinners. I kept telling myself I was keeping the peace, but really I was just avoiding conflict because I was afraid of being the bad guy. And now, Dr. Chen asked, now I'm realizing that sometimes being the bad guy in someone else's story is actually being the good guy in your own story. I reached over and took her hand. That's very philosophical. Did you come up with that? I saw it on Instagram, she admitted. But it's still true. Dr. Chen laughed. This genuine, warm laugh that made me like her immediately. Harper, what your husband did was set boundaries. Firm boundaries, yes. Dramatically delivered, absolutely. But boundaries nonetheless. And what you're experiencing now is the discomfort that comes from supporting those boundaries instead of trying to smooth them over. It feels awful, Harper said. Growth often does, Dr. Chen replied. But let me ask you this. Does it feel worse than watching your family disrespect your husband while your daughter was in the hospital? Harper was quiet for a moment. Then she said, no, it doesn't. Then you're on the right path. We left that session with homework. Actual homework, like we were back in school. Dr. Chen wanted Harper to write down every time she felt guilty about the situation and then write down whether that guilt was based on actual wrongdoing or just years of conditioning. She wanted me to continue doing what I was doing, which was the easiest homework I'd ever received. On the drive home, Harper was quiet, staring out the window at the suburban landscape rolling by, strip malls, chain restaurants, the occasional church with one of those signs that says something supposedly inspirational but usually just makes you groan. Thank you, she said suddenly. For what? For not backing down. For standing up for yourself. For showing me what boundaries actually look like instead of just talking about them. Harper, you don't have to thank me for. Yes, I do. Because I should have done it years ago, and I didn't. I let my mother criticize you. Let Nora take advantage of you. Told myself it was easier to just deal with it than make waves. But you know what I realized in therapy? What? Making waves is sometimes the only way to not drown. I pulled into our driveway and turned off the car. Then I looked at my wife. This woman I'd been married to for 14 years, who was finally starting to see that her family's dysfunction wasn't her responsibility to manage, and said, then it's time to unsubscribe from their nonsense. She laughed. Actually laughed, not the stressed out kind, not the uncomfortable kind, but the real, genuine kind that I hadn't heard from her in weeks. Unsubscribe from their nonsense, she repeated. I like that. It's very millennial of you. I'm hip. I'm with it. I know the lingo. Please stop. I'm streets ahead. That's not even a real phrase. We went inside, and for the first time in what felt like forever, our house felt like ours again. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no waiting for the next passive-aggressive comment about air conditioning or meatloaf. Just peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't require margaritas. Weeks passed, and life started resembling something almost normal. Lily went back to school, healthier and sassier than ever, armed with a story about her beach vacation that she'd edited down to my dad's family is dramatic and I almost died, but I got ice cream after, so it evened out. Evelyn and Nora, on the other hand, were publicly unraveling like a cheap sweater. Evelyn had apparently tried spinning her sob story at 3 different church groups, only to discover that Mrs. Henderson had already made the rounds with the actual facts. Turns out, when you're competing against someone who brings homemade cookies and the truth to church meetings, you're going to lose every single time. She called Harper one Tuesday evening, her voice shaking with what I'm pretty sure was manufactured emotion. I just want forgiveness, she said, loud enough that I could hear her from across the room. Harper, to her credit, had been practicing her boundaries in therapy like an Olympic athlete training for the gold. Then asked the person you called pathetic. The line went quiet. Then Evelyn said, I can't do that. Then I guess you don't want forgiveness that badly, Harper replied, and hung up. I was so proud I almost cried. Nora tried a different approach, the Guilt Trip Express, first-class ticket. She sent me a 3-paragraph text message about how I'd destroyed her stability and ruined her credit and didn't understand how hard it was out there for people her age. I read the entire thing twice, then responded with, "You're 32. Get a job." She sent back a middle finger emoji, which I considered a win because at least she'd finally been honest about her feelings. Meanwhile, I'd been busy doing something actually productive. I met with my lawyer, a guy named Rick who charged way too much but was worth every penny, and set up a family trust. Everything went into it. The house, the cars, the rental properties, the savings accounts. Harper and Lily were listed as co-trustees. No more outsiders with access. No more temporary arrangements that lasted years. No more generosity being weaponized against me. Rick looked over the paperwork and said, "This is extremely thorough. You're basically building a fortress." "Good," I said. "I'm tired of people walking through unlocked doors and complaining about the furniture." The fortress was officially closed for business. Months rolled by like credits at the end of a movie nobody wanted to sit through anyway. Life became remarkably simple once we stopped accommodating people who treated kindness like a weakness and boundaries like suggestions. Thanksgiving came and went without the traditional drama, mostly because we didn't invite the usual suspects. Christmas was quiet, peaceful, and featured exactly 0 passive-aggressive comments about my cooking. It was almost unsettling how normal everything felt, like we'd been living in a storm for so long that sunshine felt suspicious. By March, I decided we'd earned a celebration. Not a big one. I'm not trying to rub anyone's face in anything. Just a small backyard barbecue with the people who'd actually shown up when it mattered. I invited my Aunt Grace, who's basically the only person on my side of the family with functioning emotional intelligence. She showed up with potato salad and stories about her wild days in the 70s that would probably get her arrested today. My cousin Jonah came too, Grace's son, a software engineer who once told me he respected how I handled my business like a well-commented code. Clear, functional, and impossible to misinterpret. It was just the 5 of us. Me, Harper, Lily, Grace, and Jonah. No tension, no weird undercurrents. Just people who actually liked each other eating burgers and laughing about normal things. Lily was helping me grill when she suddenly raised her orange juice and said, "To peace." I clinked my beer bottle against her juice box. The kind without margaritas. "Still not over that, huh, Dad?" she said, grinning. "Kiddo, I'll be over it when I'm dead." Maybe. Harper was sitting with Grace and Jonah, and I heard her laugh. That real laugh I'd been hearing more and more lately. The one that sounded like freedom. Grace was telling some story about a protest she'd attended in 1973 that may or may not have been legal, and Jonah was recording it on his phone for the family archives, which definitely meant he was going to use it to roast his mother at future gatherings. This was family, not the people who shared your blood and treated you like garbage. The people who showed up, who cared, who didn't post margarita pictures during your worst moments. Evelyn and Nora hadn't been back since the envelope incident. Evelyn had moved in with her sister in Tampa, probably complaining about the humidity and anyone who would listen. Nora had found a roommate situation somewhere and was apparently working at a real job, which I heard through the grapevine and chose to file under good for her, not my problem. But every Christmas, I still sent them cards. Simple ones, nothing fancy. Just a family photo. Me, Harper, and Lily looking happy, and a single line inside, "Still peaceful. Hope you are too." Harper asked me once why I bothered. Why send them anything at all? Reminder, I said, that we're doing great, that their absence improved our lives, that peace was always an option, they just chose chaos. Some people scream for revenge, throw tantrums, make scenes. Me? I just served mine on their favorite table, room temperature, perfectly timed, with a side of silence so loud it echoed. Because the one thing they never understood about me was simple, I wasn't their servant. I was their lesson.